And we are live and on the air, and this is the TWIS Minion Science Island Hangout. Tonight we're going to do more than just talk about Science Island. We're gonna come up with a plan, the official Science Island plan, and then we're gonna build it. Well, at least we're gonna build an online version. It'll kind of mirror the plan. That's gonna be an interesting project. And joining me are Dale from Canada, our Canadian friend, and from Australia, we have Pamela and Chelsey. Pamela and her daughter Chelsey. Hello. Now, Dale, I asked you before whether or not you'd ever lived in a community-type environment, because I've been reading about different communities, these cooperatives, and an issue when they were first created, a lot of them in the 60s and 70s, it was the old, I don't know, I want to say hippie style, where there's no privacy, everybody goes everywhere. And I've been reading one of the reasons that they kind of fell apart is because there was no privacy. I spent 2 years in the military in a barracks, no privacy whatsoever. Community shower, community bathroom, slept in a barracks with everybody else. Can't say that I completely enjoyed the experience, but in my case, privacy is not a big deal. I like my own bedroom. Outside of that, I wouldn't mind a community shower or anything. So, Dale, what do you think? How much privacy do you think you'd really want or need?
Think in terms of middle of the desert, that like a small shack, nobody's there for 7,000 miles. That's sort of my personality. I could completely bury myself. You give me an internet connection and I'm good.
Okay. I think that pretty much means you're going to have your own little home.
Well, I'm thinking, like on Science Island, maybe there's like a hermit cave somewhere that you could allow me to stay, and I could be a recluse and grow a really long beard and long hair, because that's what I'd like to do. That's my goal.
You know what? You could be the prophet of Science Island.
The prophet. That's awesome.
And Pamela, if you can unmute yourself. How important is privacy to you, and how much privacy do you need?
Yeah, I like to poo in private, so I definitely want my a separate bathroom and that kind of thing. But yeah, no, community bathroom's fine. I want my own cubicle for showers and that. I don't want to be just in a big old room. And yeah, just a bedroom, but I am happy to share amenities and everything. I don't need a whole house private to myself, and share, resources, share. I'm trying to think, appliances and things like that. I don't, if you know what I mean. But yeah, I do like to be in the middle of nowhere, which is the point of Science Island. If I'm with a bunch of other people who like to be in the middle of nowhere too, then it should be fine.
Yeah. And I like what Justin's talked about in terms of location. Having a community which is separate but located near, let's say, someplace like a college, so you can interact when you want to. And one of the purposes would be, interacting. Because when I read about these different, the communities that have survived, and there's 3 of them that I've put some links to, and I'll have in the show notes. They all evolved by running businesses. An issue became money. Needing money to to maintain the infrastructure and some money. And one of them, Twin Oaks. Twin Oaks started as your basic community. It still is to some degree. I think they live in community homes. Their model, because they're a tax exempt, they're modeled on a monastery. So I don't think people have individual private homes, but a lot of them, I think maybe 30% or so, work off the island. And they had to do that to raise money to pay off their debts. And now you have people who work outside the community but pay what they call rent to maintain the community. And then on the community itself, they operate 5, 6, 7 businesses. The businesses are nonprofit, but they can still make a contribution because the people who work in that nonprofit can still draw salary. So if you're completely isolated, you'd have to, you know, a real problem with being isolated would simply be money. The money to, not the money to own it or to buy it, but beyond that, the money to maintain it. I guess you could do it online. There's another a cooperative that started in the 60s, 70s, and they're big online. In fact, they run retreats, spiritual retreats, and they sell books. They have a radio station. So, but they still have a presence. I don't know. I am going to read, just to give everybody a little bit of background on the evolution of cooperatives and communes since at least the 60s or 70s. And this is an article in the Financial Times in London by a guy named David Baker. And he said the explosion of communal living that spread across the United Kingdom, Europe, the US, and Australia at the beginning of the 70s turned out to be a fascinating experiment in what it means to call somewhere home. Although the revolution in the commonards that the commonards dreamt of never really came to be, there are still plenty of communes around, and the effects of their experiment can be felt today. Since the 1980s, we have gained in complexity. And this is May East, and she's the chief executive of one of these cooperatives called in Findhorn. It's actually an eco-village in Findhorn, and it's in Scotland. And it's one of the many offshoots of the quasi-religious Findhorn community that was set up by a guy named Peter Caddy. We have diversified into 50 business initiatives, from a community store to a bakery, a wind farm, a record company, a factory that makes solar panels, and so on. The original foundation itself, which is now called the Findhorn Foundation, has an annual turnover of £1.6 million in training and consultancy work. So it's big bucks we're talking about here. And then just 250 miles south, another place called Laurelston Hall began as a radical community in the 1970s. It's now a thriving conference center in a nice line of environmental and spiritually oriented retreats. That's an interesting evolution. Many of the communes built on sincerely held beliefs collapsed when faced with the tempting reality of the straight world, the problem of living near actual communities. While communities in the US, New Zealand, and Australia could cushion them somewhat from the rest of the world by setting up in the middle of nowhere, in the UK and Europe, most of the communes were in or on the edge of towns and villages. Their members were able to compare their own standards of living with those of people around them and found them wanting. And that's a big thing that Justin has talked about. That is, you know, I don't want to live in a place where, you know, like there's no television. At the Twin Oaks commune, there you can't watch live television. You can have CDs and things, but they don't have live television. Little things like that.
That's, that sounds like hell.
You really got to buy into it. I mean, that's what it comes down to. And that kind of a community, you really got to buy into it. I got a funny feeling the group of people here that are going to build Science Island are not going to buy into that. I don't think. Let's see. Yeah, and this is another, we were talking about privacy. I am very jealous of my privacy. There's a guy named David Michael, and he lives in one of these communes, and he now has created what is the UK's growing, they call it co-housing movement. I lived in a commune in Bedford-upon-Avon. At first it was a community, but gradually we made our own private spaces. I am beginning to think that there is a human need for privacy and a need for community. People vary in how much of one and how much of the other they want. So on our Science Island, we're going to have Dale. Dale's going to be over there, maybe with his little shack by himself, and he'll wander in from time to time, probably. And then there'll probably be me, and maybe I'll have the hot tub, and I'll have the community shower and everything like that. There's another early illusion of the Communards was that there was no need to create a formal decision-making process. That if you worked hard enough at it, decisions could be made by consensus. The impulse against decision-making was essentially a non-authoritarian one, fueled by a fantasy that as long as people all get along, in the end, they would find a way to agree. In fact, the opposite has turned out to be true. While the original founders of the communes tended to be people who already knew each other, were fairly like-minded, and understood each other's idiosyncrasies, once the communes grow, making decisions turned out to be more difficult. The first decision a group has to make is how to make a decision. At Findhorn, we have continually adopted our ways of deciding. Each of the community's businesses has a different way of making decisions depending on its structure and the number of people involved. Mostly, the choice is between consensus and what the East calls deep democracy. If you've got 100 people and you have to decide on how to spend a new grant on a new windmill or on some eco-homes, 98 people want one thing and 2 people want the other. In deep democracy, we give those 2 people the time to say what they are opposed to, go back to the drawing board and try to find a way of getting the two people to really buy into this particular proposal. And you want to avoid doing what simple democracy does, creating 49 potential saboteurs. But once a decision is made, it's much easier to implement. So the idea... Go ahead, Dale. You want to say something?
Well, I'm just thinking this Science Island thing, it's going to a place that I don't think I'm a fit. I think I see it going on an eco sort of community-based thing. I want to engineer my entire environment. I want to those coral reefs, I want to tear them down and rebuild them from scratch synthetically so they're more beautiful. I want to modify the environment. Pretty much I want to engineer everything. Scientifically, of course. And science is, right? Right. That's what engineering is, right? It's applied science. So that's what I want to do. So I think I'm gonna get voted off the island, I think. What do you think?
Sorry, my baby's being noisy. You've not visited the coral reefs of Australia, otherwise you would know that they could not be more beautiful than they already are. So,
What am I going to say to that? You made it sound very nice.
Because I didn't even know. You know, I've lived next to them for 3 decades before I actually went out there snorkeling and everything, and I nearly drowned because I kept saying "wow" underwater. Getting it was just amazing. No, they really do live up to their expectations, the reputation. You've never seen anything like it. So you could not engineer anything more beautiful. And secondly, yeah, no, I don't want to live with you if that's what you're going to do.
That's precisely what I'm going to do. I think we should engineer everything we possibly can and push humanity to the point where we can terraform worlds, terraform our own planets, just everything will become synthetic, and in that you won't be able to tell the difference between something synthetic and non-synthetic. It will appear to be natural, because when you look at life, what is life? It comes down to simple code, right? Once we understand that code, natural will have no meaning anymore.
Well, actually, what you can do, you can have the person who wants to take the environment and wants to live in that environment as best they can, want to make it sustainable. And then you can have the other person over there in their laboratory, and they're trying to improve on whatever exists in the current environment, synthetically or otherwise. The coral reef. Okay, we build on the coast of Australia, so we got the nice little coral reefs there, and we protest. We protest against, occupy the coral reefs, okay? And we try to, and we stand in front of the ships. We got our boats, and we stand in front of the ships so they can't come and pollute the water and whatever. And then we also have the guys, the mad scientists over there in their little laboratory, and they're trying to build their own coral. They're trying to improve upon it, so when we get run over and they get rid of us, you'll be able to come in with your little synthetic coral reef, and you'll be able to rebuild it someplace else.
Absolutely. This whole naturalistic thing, it's going down very quickly. Pretty soon we'll be designer babies. There'll be no more need for sex anymore, right? Because it'll all be...
No. I ain't fun of that.
Why would that be a good thing? What?
Because there will be things that'll be...
I'm not living on that island.
There will be synthetic ways of her pleasure that has nothing to do with sex. It'll be completely... You'll be immersed in an environment that is much superior than what we experience now. Because we'll be masters at our... the human body. We'll have such a clear understanding of it that synthetically we'll develop whatever we want. That's where we're headed.
Yeah, I'm happy with the old-fashioned way. Thank you.
All right.
I'm not living on an island where there's no sex.
Well, no, there is, but it's just not natural.
It's not natural.
Go ahead.
What? I think I met that guy. No, I'm happy with normal. The normal way of seeing things.
There were two movies that come to mind. One was a Woody Allen movie, maybe in the 70s or something. It was kind of he had gone into the hospital for like a hangnail or something, and they messed up the operation and they froze him cryogenically, and he wakes up in the future. And there's a whole bunch of stuff going. They find out in the future that cigarettes and chocolate are good for you, so everybody smokes. And one of the things he has a device. So he has his girlfriend. And the device is called the orgasmatron. And you go in there and you have the experience. You know, you don't actually have sex with each other anymore. You go into the orgasmatron.
Well, okay.
No, there are ways to have that experience without using another person, but there's no replacement. Like just you can have an orgasm, yeah, that's great, but there's the connection that you get with another person that you cannot get with an artificial thing. You just can't.
Okay, I don't think you're thinking large enough. So, do you agree that science advances and that we have a clearer picture on what humanity is every year? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, but I'd still rather have sex with a living, breathing man than go in and just have an orgasm.
Okay, well,
I can do that
just a minute.
now.
I didn't say it's without.
I don't need a man to have an orgasm.
Right, but it will be better with or without another person because we understand that the brain chemistry better at some point. We'll be able to amplify every single feeling because of our understanding of science.
I don't think so.
Actually, you made me think of another movie which had Keanu Reeves. No, maybe it wasn't Keanu Reeves. Maybe it was another actor. Someone who can actually act. I forget. In any event, you know, the idea is like The Matrix, where you go in and he had died and he had been put into a chamber and he had these images, so he's living in a virtual reality world. And towards the end of the movie, the people who had built that world for him, I forget what happens, but he winds up having to make a choice. He can live in that virtual reality for the rest of his life, or he can come out and live in the real world. Now, I would prefer the real world. Pamela probably prefers the real world. I'm thinking Dale might stay in virtual reality. I don't know.
I really don't think there's any way to... I'm not just talking about, you know, orgasms and sex. It's the connection you have. You're looking in someone's eyes when you're in the act and everything. I really don't think you're going to duplicate that.
Well, scientifically describe that connection then.
I can't scientifically. If I could do it artificially, I would. But it's a lot less complicated than having to go and, you know, be with another human being. No, I don't think you're going to be able to duplicate that.
Look at everything like an engineering problem.
It's not engineering, Dale. Aren't you like married with kids?
It's all. I have 3 kids. Well, there is no romance. It's all engineering.
Oh my God. Okay. Well.
And there's no God either. I just.
No, I know there's no God. That's just an expression. It's like, oh, my leg, you know. Yeah. Anything like that.
Okay, so.
Oh, God is the expression women use when they fake an orgasm.
Right. That's right.
I don't have to.
Anyway. I believe we are at the tipping point of our understanding is maturing to such a point with life that synthetically the horses have left the barn. We can't close the doors anymore. People are selfish and they want new experiences. They want better experiences. It's known through humanity. We buy better makeup. We buy better facial creams. We buy better things to wash our hair to keep us cleaner. We do things for eyesight. We get treatments for our eyesight. Most of the planet wants to improve upon themselves. And as we learn more about science, synthetically, but that will lead down this road to the end where everything will become synthetic because we'll have mastery over our environment. Well, there'll be romance, but it'll be more intense. It'll be more intense.
More intense. How?
You will take a pill, and all those different centers of the brain, everything that you feel will be amplified because we'll have mastery of the human body, and you'll be able to take very, very specific things and alter your genetic structure, your microbiome, such that we will have mastery and you will experience what you want to experience?
Kind of
Well, I wouldn't want it
skeptical.
in any sense because my head might explode.
Okay, well, I can tell that I'm convincing you because you're not as opposed to the idea. Because
No, I wouldn't want to take a pill in place. No.
okay, do you take anything synthetically? Do you eat anything or take anything synthetically?
Yeah. I do.
Why?
Look at my hair, for goodness sake.
Okay, so you do. Why do you do it?
Because
Why
blondes
do you
have
do
more
it?
fun.
Okay, so you've taken a synthetic item to have more fun. So you've bettered yourself by using something synthetic.
Yeah.
And I believe
Yeah,
that
I'm
you
not
will
talking about
continue to do
everything.
that.
I'm just saying I really don't think you can duplicate a human connection with a pill. I'll be back.
I think everything will be, as we get mastery over our environment, there'll be more and more synthetic ways to do things. Ed, am I way off base?
It depends on how far in the future you're talking about. It's a possibility. Cannot predict evolution. But certainly you're right that when you come down to the most basics, everything that happened is just chemistry. And it's chemistry and it's neurons firing in the brain. And whether we're talking about, let's say sex, having sex naturally or just taking a pill or whatever, it's all going to be a chemical reaction in the brain. That part is true. I think, I have to wonder though, if you know, and I don't know if this gets into self-awareness exactly, but I'm thinking of another movie. Sylvester Stallone was in it. And he was frozen, and he wakes up in the future, and is going to have sex with a girl. Sandra Bullock. So yeah, some points for that. In any event, so him and Sandra Bullock get in the old hot tub, and he's ready for the action. And she gives him this thing that he puts on his head, and she puts the thing on her head. And you can see originally, he's getting into it, but then he just takes it off because he knows it's not real. He knows it's not real. Now, for Herm's standpoint, the idea of exchanging bodily fluids is, ooh, forget about that. But it comes down to, I think, when you know. Knowing that it's a real person I have, I'm touching and feeling, as opposed to a virtual reality person. I'm touching and feeling through neuron connections in my head.
But wait a minute. But I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that that's possible to do this in virtual reality, but I'm not exactly saying that. I'm saying that if myself and the mate that I choose to be with, we both alter ourselves to amplify these feelings and connections, it will be a richer experience. It's not necessary. It will be just as real because it'll be happening, but we'll be amplifying the existing human response system and adding to it to make it, whether it's pleasure or to be able to jump higher or to breathe purer oxygen, for gas exchange, to have smoother skin. I think all that will be very real.
I think scientifically you're absolutely correct. I agree with you there. I suspect you're going to have one group of people who will want to have that enhanced experience, and another group of people who won't. There's going to be choices. Now, the issue then becomes, will people ever reach the point where they only want that enhanced experience? That's a good question. I'm not sure.
I agree with you, but let's look at every technology that's come along. When cars first came out, I think there was many people who rejected cars. They stuck with their horses, they stuck with walking and everything else. But after 20 or so years, sometimes it takes a while for the slow comers to come along, but eventually everybody adapts to the new society. and how many people don't drive, use transportation in some way. It's very minute.
Hard for me to visualize all the different aspects. Oh, go ahead, Pamela.
Oh, I was just going to say, I still prefer the horse and cart and walking to cars. I only drive when I have to.
And what percentage of the world population feel this?
Depends where you live. But I go do and do house sitting in rural Australia so that I can do the whole horse and cart thing. It's great. You can't do it in the middle of Sydney because you'll get killed and so will your horse. But yeah, depends where you live.
So you still ride a horse and cart? That's your primary form of transportation?
I have, yeah. Within the last year, yeah. I've been living in places where that's an option, yeah.
It's an option.
So you go down,
what is your primary mode of transportation?
At the moment, I don't have a car.
What's your primary?
At the moment, my legs.
Oh, it's very healthy.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I walk everywhere.
Right. I just believe in the future we're going to have so much mastery over our environment that it'll all be engineered because of human selfishness. We'll all want to be, whether it's beauty, whether it's strength, no matter what it is, everybody's going to want it. I think we're going to head there as confidence in mastery of the science of even plants. We want plants that produce better foods that are better for us, that when you eat it, it actually has a more beneficial effect on the human body. All that's going to continue to happen, and I think that's where we're going.
Okay. Yeah, if what you were saying before is you still have sex but you take a pill to make it more intense, well, I don't care if people do that. I don't personally need to do that because I don't want it to be any more intense than it already is because my head will explode. But if other people, not everyone is as fortunate and can, enjoy it as much, so if it makes people enjoy it more, then that's cool. Yeah, that's fine. But I just thought you meant you were taking a pill instead of having a human connection. And I think that's a bit nuts.
I think the human connection will always be there, but I think even we're going away from natural evolution and we're going to a place of directed evolution. And we're slowly but surely moving away from a naturalistic state, and it's all directed. We're going to be able to, by changing our genomes and rearranging our letters, we'll be evolving ourselves, and a pill won't be necessary. We will scramble the letters around, we will change our microbiome and whatever else we discover in the future, and it'll be engineered.
I don't think that's going to be true of every person. I think you're going to have communities that, I hate to use the word natural, it's a silly word in many respects, but yeah, there are going to be communities where people will prefer the natural experience, if you will, going down to the beach. Instead of sitting in my chair here and having the experience of going down the beach, I want to be able to walk down the beach. Now, the thing I find a hard time, you say enhanced experience. Okay, I'm at the beach. The sun is rising. I can smell the water. It's a fantastic experience. I don't know how you can enhance that kind of an experience. If you're talking about sex, making love, not sex, but making love, same kind of a thing. I don't think you can enhance that particular experience. You can experience it differently, but I just find it hard to, I don't know how you could visualize some of these emotional experiences, how you can enhance. I walk up to a painting and I go, wow. I don't know how you can enhance that kind of experience.
Well, before people tasted salt and they didn't know what salt was, it wasn't that long ago that things didn't move around this planet very quickly, and spices. Before people discovered this and it was moved more broadly around the planet, when you tasted salt and tasted spices, that was a huge enhancement with food. And that's just a simple, very, very simple, straightforward explanation. What is beautiful? You mentioned walking down a beach. Beauty in most people's eyes is things that have more symmetry in many cases. So if you're walking down a beach and there's rocks and things that you're stepping on that aren't that comfortable, what if all of a sudden you have a synthetic beach that the sand is pure of color? It's perfect. Or it can be imperfect if you want it. It can be totally designed. That's I think part of terraforming, and I think that will be a reality at some point. And people will love to sit on that beach because it will be customizable and engineered and very unnatural.
So,
yes.
I feel like I'm arguing with you, Dale, and I don't want to be arguing with you, but I don't use salt or spices or anything. I like the natural flavor of everything. I never use anything. And yeah. And to create a synthetic beach or whatever, or have a synthetic experience of the beach, well then you'd never go anywhere. Why would you have to go anywhere to do anything and to have new experiences? It doesn't make any sense. There's something very rewarding about hiking for a couple of hours to get somewhere that no one else goes to see the beauty of a place that is that few people experience, if you know what I mean, or the people that do experience it, they go to a lot of trouble to experience it. So that's something very special about that. And to make a synthetic version of that people can buy for $9.99 on Netflix or something, I don't know. It's I don't want to live in that world. That sounds terrible.
How about synthetically terraforming a new world with new species, and you watch how they evolve, and you get to visit that planet, and you get to see how things through these chaotic theories of evolution, how they evolve over time, and you can visit that terraformed planet that you started the initial chemistry of it. How about that?
Yeah, sounds cool. Let's do that.
But it's all completely synthetic. So now let's take it a step. Now it's not a planet, but now it's your neighbor down the street that's terraformed their yard. Is that different?
Well, only if it affects my environment. If it doesn't have any effect on my environment, then I don't care what people do. Well, as long as it doesn't, affect anyone else. That's what I say about That's what I say about laws. As long as people aren't harming anyone else, then I don't really care what they do.
Right. So right now we don't have the engineering expertise to do that, because in many cases, if someone changes something in their own yard, it will affect you in some way. If you let your weeds go in your yard, they grow pest. But at some point, we're going to be able to engineer this so it doesn't affect. You can do it yard by yard, body by body, planet by planet. Whatever you want to do will be totally available. That's where we're heading. I think that's, if you look 100 years into the future, that's our future.
For instance,
I'm glad I'll be dead by then.
Technology, we can grow better crops. Oops, excuse me. You said something that made Dale laugh.
I said I'm glad that I'll be dead by then.
You're glad that you're going to be dead. Won't you be open to new experiences that yeah, but you may not be dead. What if technology will keep you alive and make you 20 forever?
I don't want to be 20.
Well, what age do you want to be?
The age
okay, so you have all the wisdom of what you have now, but you can be any age you want. We're headed there too.
My body's just as good as it was 20 years ago. I'm happy with my body. I don't want it to change anything.
Okay, so in 40 years, will your body age and you will have more challenges getting around, mobility?
Maybe. Yeah, we'll see. I know some very fit people in their 70s and 80s, and they're fitter than some 30-year-olds I know. So it depends on how I look after myself. But so far, there's a couple of creaks, But other than a couple of creaks here and there, my body's pretty much the way it's always been. I'm really happy with it. So Yeah, I don't.
So
I
if
don't
science
need to
can
be.
modify you if your back if you end up having back problems, and in
Yeah,
40
yeah.
years
That was
science has the ability to correct it, will you correct it?
Yep. Well, if it's giving
You
me
will.
trouble, like at the moment. I was gonna say at
Okay,
the moment I have a
let me
hernia.
ask something else.
Yeah.
In 40 years, if you have wrinkles, tons of wrinkles, and science can correct it very easily, will you do that?
No, I've earned them. What's wrong with wrinkles?
You love wrinkles,
Well, I've earned them.
but you
I
don't
don't.
like dark hair.
Oh, I've had dark hair. That's fine. I had dark
So why
hair
do you change it?
last year. For fun.
And so
Sorry.
for fun. So if you could, for fun, that's a good reason. I think these are all really good reasons. I'm not picking on you. I think it's good
No,
reason
but
to change
what's
your
wrong with
hair.
wrinkles? You say.
So
Sorry.
would you change the color of your skin for fun? If you could have an instant tan because we can genetically control that, would that be fun?
Well, just to give it a whirl. Yeah, sure. Why not? That'd be cool. I've been told
Okay.
I have
Would you take away wrinkles? Because it would be fun to do it for a while, and then you could put them back on if you want.
No, I earn them.
No? Okay.
I had a friend tease me the other day because he
That's
saw
outside of
that I
your...
had. No, my friend was teasing me the other day because I had a few grey hair, and I said I've earned my grey hairs. I'm happy with them sitting up there.
So
Who
I
wants to
see
be
no
25
problem
forever?
with wrinkles. I see no problem with wrinkles. I see no problem with any of this stuff. I just make the observation that at some point we're going to be able to engineer our bodies to do whatever we want it to do. If we want to look a little more aged and debonair and have a little gray hair, we'll be able to have that. And I think that aging will be an engineering problem that will be defeated at some point. That's all.
It's just I think you know I don't know why people want to be young forever. It's just, you see oh my daughter's making noise. You see older guys and they wax their chest, and I think why? Because that makes you look young. Yeah, I'm not attracted to hairless boys. I like men. So you know I don't find that attractive. What's wrong with being older? What's wrong with wrinkles?
I think they're great. I think if you want to have that, that's a wonderful thing. There's nothing. I'm not adamantly opposed
I've
to
got
anything like
wrinkles.
that. It's more about what you...
See, I find it interesting
No,
because
you don't.
I've noticed recently that I have a lopsided smile. I must do because I'm 35 in a couple of weeks, right? And the wrinkle on this side is much deeper than the wrinkle on this side. So I must smile lopsided for that to have happened. You know. So I think, oh, that's cool. That's interesting. I'm getting little lines around my eyes. It's all right. I smile.
Hello,
I've got a
Justin.
look at
Let me
the
interrupt you.
consternation.
As you can see, we're now inspecting Pamela's eyes and face. I spent the first 5 minutes when I opened the Hangout talking about Science Island, and now we have completely wandered off and spent the next hour talking about the artificial world versus the natural world. And we got our friend Dale, who's going to have his little cave off by himself, who's going to be that mad scientist, and we're all going to be living in a purely scientific world where everything is pure synthetics. And me and Pamela, we're going to be the people. We're going to be on our the Amish. We're going to be the Amish people.
Creating a Luddite society. Luddite Island.
That. I'm just saying, I don't know why people, in general, I don't know why people think that these things are bad. You know.
Oh, I don't think they're bad.
No, that's good.
I just think there'll be choice. And in the future, as we perfect and engineer everything at different points in the, from 50, 100, 200, 300 years, there'll be choice of exactly what we want. And, when you mentioned aging, and aging isn't a great thing in my thinking. When you think about what aging is, in terms of its mutations that are occurring, so your body is not functioning as well as it can. In that definition of aging, that's bringing you closer to death, and I believe that death is a bad thing.
I agree with you. Absolutely. That's
Yay.
why I've been refusing to age. So there's this sound. It was there during this week in science, and it seemed to go away. I finally isolated it, and it sounds like it's coming from within the wall. Do I have critters in my wall? Okay, I'm gonna be right back. I'm gonna go look out and see if the tree out there is somehow, a branch or something is somehow making some sort of contact to the other side of this wall or the roof, and I'm really hoping that's the case, because otherwise there's something living in my wall.
Well, you know, down in Florida, South Florida, you got these massive super swarms of termites who are maybe mutating, and I don't know, maybe going to take over Florida. Maybe you've got some critters in there, and they're waiting for you to go to sleep, Justin. And when you go to sleep, they're going to put you in a little cocoon. The pod people.
It could be. It's kind of incessant. It like keeps going on.
Pipes in your walls.
There should be no pipes over here. There shouldn't even be electrical conduit or anything else in that corner.
Well, I've just read Harry Potter, and so it might be a basilisk snake that's going to eat you in your walls.
With that explanation, I could sleep soundly at night. The fact that, right, if somebody said that's what that was, I'd be like, oh, not a problem. I'll just, yeah, fine. But this is actually making an audible sort of clicking sound. It's too weird. All right, I'll be back.
Okay, when he gets back, we'll try to talk a little bit about Science Island. But Dale, I've got to continue our discussion. I think there's a difference between want and need. Technology serves need for the most part. It can serve want, but it mostly serves need. And when you're talking some things, as I said, some experiences can't be enhanced, so there's no need for the technology to improve them. I think that's maybe where we may be disagreeing, is that I believe there are some experiences there's no need to. It's emotional experiences primarily. There is no need to enhance them.
Okay. If you're happy with an unenhanced experience, that's a choice thing. I will choose the enhanced experience every time. I don't believe there's always a way to improve things, because the human mind as it is at the moment, when you experience something, and in the beginning it's always very wonderful, but then it kind of gets old after a while, and you need to change and modify that experience in order for it to become better. To think that it's a singularity, that it's a single thing is going to keep you happy all the time, it's not possible. So by engineering our environment, it's going to lead us down a path of wonderful change that will enhance every bit of our being.
Oh boy! Anybody watching? We're talking about natural versus unnatural. We got a guy, Justin, who's worried about critters in his walls. This is. This is.
Is it natural versus unnatural? Because I mean, it's not that I'm anti-unnatural. I mean, if my daughter and I would not be here if it weren't for cesarean sections, right? So I can't do anything about that. So that's an unnatural way to come into the world, but we're here. No, I'm just talking about. Oh dear. Yeah, I remember that page. I'm just talking about. Yeah, why do people want to improve things like what Ed was saying, it's about need and want. What do you? Why do you need to mess with some things? Let's concentrate on other things. Why do you need a synthetic virtual experience of the beach? Just go to the beach. The beach is awesome.
What if you can improve on it?
Evolution means there's always going to be the experiment, all the time. That's evolution. Some experiments work out, and we try to replicate them, perhaps improve on them. Other experiences don't work out. That's just evolution. So my point would be there is always going to be somebody trying to work with that enhanced experience, drugs, ecstasy, whatever it happens to be, LSD, whatever it happens to be, you know, to improve or to have a different kind of experience. But I think there are going to be a lot of people who don't choose, who don't feel the need for that enhanced experience. And so I agree with you, people will always be developing and building different kinds of technologies and different kinds of drugs for that enhanced experience. But I think you're going to have at least an equal number of people quite satisfied with that particular experience as it exists now and have no need to go beyond it.
Are we not building Science Island for an enhanced experience? So we're terraforming an island so that it's meeting our own ideals of what we think a perfect environment might be, right? Is that not the essence of what we're doing?
Yes.
I'm not so sure, but go ahead, Justin.
I think so. I would go along with that. I mean, nature sucks.
I thought it was so we
That's
can
why
hang out
left
with
it.
intelligent people all the time and not sheeple.
Nature left to random natureness is unbearable and impossible to live in. That's why everybody left. You know, can you create a better balance than concrete and cinder block? I think so.
Well, what you can't improve on is the experience of like-minded people working together on something, whatever that happens to be. That's an experience you cannot improve on. Now, you can try to improve on building the better concrete so that it's self-healing. You can try to build a better power grid, a better way of farming, or whatever it happens to be. But some things like the experience of working together, you can't enhance. And that's a big part of Science Island, like-minded people working together.
You can't work, you can't improve on the group experience? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That's
So
in our DNA.
Or synthesize
what I do
it,
as a...
I guess he's saying you can't just synthesize it. Like, it's... I mean, I suppose it could be on anything, though. But I don't know. What are we talking about exactly?
Okay. Let's try to. As I say, we spent 5 minutes talking about Science Island. Let's try to move the conversation back to.
Did you see? Did you see the land? Did you see the 160 acres for under 100,000?
Yes.
Beautiful, right?
Yes. Well. Okay. One of the things I talked about. Well, I did a lot of research. Don't know if it means anything. I got a whole bunch of links. I don't even going to bother putting them. But what it comes down to is the communities that have evolved to exist. So you started out 60s, 70s, your typical your community where everybody's going to live together, peace and love, and we don't need to be organized or anything like that. And that didn't work out after a while. They've evolved into almost corporate communities, more like, or small town communities. But an important part of those communities is businesses, and the three of them. Twin Oaks in Tennessee. Twin Oaks in Tennessee you've got something like 200 people living on 2,000 acres of land. You've got the Feinhorn Eco Village. That's 400 people living on 50 square miles of land. So the communities that the farm. Now, I don't know how big the farm is, but it's several square miles, and I'm betting 1,000 acres or more, perhaps, of land. So one part of that equation that might be, I've always thought that 1 square acre of land could be one person. That's not how these communities are being able to exist. However, we might still be able to do it if we adapt the right lifestyle and technology. I don't know.
Mhm.
So I like that 160 square. I like that 100 acres, 160 acres. Great where to stop, but for the long term, maybe we want to move somewhere that's got cheap land.
Yeah, but I think that when you're talking about that kind of a rural get-up, you're also the whether or not you're talking about a community over 50 square miles of 100 people or 200 people, or a bunch of individuals who are doing their own thing separately from each other. And the reason is, like, first of all, if we were going to do something like the idea, which is not that we burn kerosene lanterns and heat the houses with chopped firewood, but if we were having a little solar grid and having everybody wired up and an internet and everything else, bringing all of the facets of technology along with us, we want to be close together. We want to be pretty close together, because really quickly, you run into the cost of running wires 5 miles to somebody's place. This becomes what you're spending all of your time and effort and resources on. It's just running cable, So it would have to probably be pretty close by. So I don't know. I think 160 acres is a pretty amazingly large piece of land to even if you had an acre a person. One person per acre.
We need room for like
for 150 people being able to fit on like 10 acres.
Yeah, but where are we going to put the motocross track?
Wherever you want it to be. It's everywhere. Right? There's no roads there yet. You ride your bike wherever you want. But I could figure like all 150 of the houses and like the kitchens and whatever else fit easily on 10 acres. 10 acres is plenty of space to put a whole mess of tiny homes or earthships or whatever type of housing, But that's just
we've already said we can build up as well.
And you could build it up too. You could you could put it on 1 acre or half an acre and go straight up. The real necessity of having land is a couple things. One, if you're rural, it means you get less hassle from building code inspector type. Or you can call everything a cabin. You're not in an incorporated area, so you go to the minimum of the state or the national building code programs. Plus, you can get exceptions signed off on at the local county builder in most cases. In California, I think you still have to get the state to sign off on what you're doing. But you can get exemptions for doing alternative housing if it's for ecological or power consumption saving, saying that you're testing out this, that, or the other feature. They've done it with straw bale homes in California. They've done it with different kinds of things like that. But the big reason I think of is the more space you have, the more ability you have to do super efficient rainwater capture. So you can create larger sort of collection fields that feed cisterns. So that half-inch of rain over a larger space creates plenty of water to last 2 or 3 people, throughout the entire next season. I mean, it can really, depending on the surface area that you're using for water collection. So that's one reason for space. Another reason for space is also so that we could do some sort of livestock and or agriculture. Greenhouses can take up a lot of space. You have plenty of space to place those where it makes sense to. And then also, there are going to be things that's like, well, we do want a small cement foundry on the island. Let's put it as far away from where everybody sleeps as possible because it smells or something. Whatever the thing is. I even, in some respect, like 160 acres could be even too much because it's a lot of then just managing the land and growth and overgrowth and undergrowth and fire lines and all the rest of that would be a lot of work. But 150 people in housing on 10 acres, completely doable.
Housing, you're correct as far as housing goes. With these communities, I think it's really the businesses they operate. We get back to one of the things you wanted to focus on tonight. This is from last week. He talked about funding, if you remember, and that is that besides people not being organized enough to create any kind of infrastructure and the thing falling apart, the second thing is funding, and that is what helps these existing cooperative communities is the fact that they run businesses. And in some cases, they run 30 or 40 different businesses, not just a couple of businesses. That Twin Oaks, which has 200 people, and they operate like 6 or 7 different nonprofit businesses. They work there. They earn a salary. The salary maybe goes back into the community. But you've got to have businesses to be able to build your infrastructure, etc. So funding is important. Funding 3 parts. Funding to buy the land, funding to build the island, and then funding to maintain it. So
yeah, well, if we're going to be near civilization, I just need a shipping container decked out into an office, and I can still be a lawyer. So if we put that somewhere at the front of the property, then I can run my law firm out of a shipping container at the front of the property, and that helps contribute as well.
Yeah, right. And so this is sort of the idea of if it wasn't too rural, then folks would be able to continue to earn that outside living, working in whatever their profession is. So the businesses on the island, I mean, certainly part of the build-out funding of this whole thing, part of it would be doing something like making a giant chicken coop, so that we would have eggs. A lot of those things that, whether it's the vertical farming or the aquaponic fish farm sort of ideas, whatever we take on there is just as easily be for profit. It could just as easily be a farmer's market kind of a thing that's there that people, who are in the nearby areas can come into and buy goods from. So there's possibilities for starting businesses that way. And again, it depends on the land. If it's agriculture land, you can do a lot of that kind of thing. There's a lot of freedom for doing that. If it's residential zoned, you may be very limited in what sort of ag activities you can be involved in.
Yeah, you talked. I looked into the land trust, and I looked into nonprofits. All 3 of these communities that have been around for like 30, 40, 50 years, they're all nonprofit. But I don't know that that's a good model, because nonprofit with the IRS code, Twin Oaks, for example, their model is a monastery. So one of the things, I don't want to live like a monk. So if you, for instance, at Twin Oaks, there's restrictions. For instance, they have a community living room, and they don't have live TV. No live TV. You can buy a CD or bring it back to your room or something. They don't have live TV. And if it's a nonprofit, I'm going to guess the tax man rolls up into your community and he sees a Tesla in the parking lot. He's not going to buy that this is a nonprofit community. I don't think so. So nonprofits, maybe some of the businesses that you run, your bookstore or whatever, your convention center, could be a nonprofit, but the nonprofit is too restrictive, I think.
And it also looks like such a nightmare to run. You constantly have to be taking meetings and have all these different people who are on a board who aren't part of it, who can't receive any benefit from the community, from the nonprofit. It becomes kind of ridiculous at some point. Like, so the people running the nonprofits don't have any relationship with the nonprofit. This is how they're run, really. But so what did the land trust look like?
Well, let's see. I will read you. I will actually read you. I have a document that I looked into on land trust. Okay. Different types of land trust. First, you've got the Conservation Land Trust, and that's a nonprofit organization that, as all of its part of its mission, actively works to conserve land by undertaking and assisting in land conservation, blah, blah, blah. Alternative type of land trust, another type of land trust, is a method of holding real estate. The reason for holding title this way is to allow legal title of the property to be held by one person, a trustee, or the original owners retain all the rights and privileges of ownership. Putting real estate into a land trust allows the owner to avoid probate, blah, blah, blah. I don't think that looks too good. Community land trust. A community land trust is a private, nonprofit corporation, there's that nonprofit problem, created to acquire and hold land for the benefit of a community and provide secure, affordable access to land and housing for community residents. Now here's the IRS code. This is 501c3. We're talking about nonprofits. To be a tax-exempt organization, an organization must be organized and operated exclusively for exempt purposes set forth in this other place. And none of the earnings may inure to any private shareholder or individual. In addition, it may not be an action organization, Pamela. No politics. No politics here. The organization may not be organized or operated for the benefit of private interest and no part of a section, blah, 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 and that earnings may be inured to the benefit of any private shareholder or individual. So you kind of get where I'm going. There's restrictions. And if you want to go nonprofit, the first thing you got to do is hire a good lawyer.
Well, and I don't see any initial reason to do that. I really don't see it. Gosh. So actually, the middle one, the middle trust, kind of makes the most sense, I think, because it's privately owned, but the private ownership doesn't extend to liability of the current user. So, so the idea would be whoever puts in the initial, giddy up and go money, I guess, or however we funnel it to be, well, so there needs to be a body that collects the money that then puts it into the trust, right? So that's still something that would need to be created. Whether that's a corporate entity, a nonprofit entity, it seems like it would be simpler to make it like an LLC.
Yes.
That has the land holding that then puts it into the trust, so that it can be used, even though it's not using it itself for any specific purpose. The nonprofit idea is to get tax exempt status stuff, and I don't think that's really a concern. I don't think that's something that the Science Island idea is worried about, because it's not an organized money-making organization that's specifically looking to bring cash into an organization in any way, shape, or form. It's all made up of individuals. They've got their own individual taxes to deal with. On the island, we try to deal in Science Island money so that we're bartering, so the whole tax thing isn't really even part of the barter system on the island. Though when we deal in our outside jobs, of course we're paying the income tax, the Social Security, all that. We're still Americans, right?
Yeah, you can. The issue with a land trust, a legal land trust, that is, if you wanted to remain in perpetuity, you're going to say we're going to create this trust, and we're going to put assets into this trust and this land, and that's land we want it to be there forever. That's one. You get your lawyer, but you can do that. But there are restrictions. On the other hand, if you want to set it up like a corporation, you can pretty much do anything you want. The issue becomes ownership. Who owns? And if I'm the owner and I die, does my ownership part go into my estate? That's the complicated factor. Ownership.
Well, yeah. So okay. So who owns a corporation?
You got to decide.
Right.
That is exactly the first decision you have to make.
Okay. So the short version of it is it's shareholders, right?
Yeah.
So we create a multi-headed dodecahedron hydra of share ownership of this thing, so that I could knock on somebody's door and it turns out they own a share. Perfect stranger, they own a piece of it. Like, you make it so big within the group that everybody who's contributing has some sort of a share of this thing, that it takes the share vote, which is basically the Science Islanders, whether or not to decide to do something with the corporate entity. And yeah, I suppose that if any individual dies, their sort of piece of the LLC goes on like it would pass on to anybody else. There, somebody in the family would inherit that piece of the trust. But I mean, I often think this is what the founding fathers, in a way, did with the Constitution and with the states and the colonies and the colonies, then the states, and then 3 branches of government. You spread the ownership and control into as many hands as possible, so that nothing really big can change and shift, right? There, like we got the Louisiana Purchase, we bought the Alaska from the Russians, we just bought large swaths of land off of people. Can't remember. I think we bought Utah from Mexico or something.
We took Texas.
We just took Texas. Yeah.
We bought Louisiana from the French.
Mm-hmm. Let's see how to say this. If anybody wanted to buy a part of the United States, there would be way too many people who would have to sign off on it. So there would have to be this massive amount of agreement to write that check. That's why we were buying land but weren't selling any. We couldn't sell it. We didn't know who you would even talk to sell. But there was a king of France who would, we could write a check to, and he could turn over the land. Right? There was a dictator in Russia who we could send a check to, and he could turn over land. And if you wanted to buy part of the United States, it was like, I don't even know who you'd have to put it through a bill, and then the Congress, and then the Supreme Court would look at whether that was legal, and then the president could even veto the damn thing at the end. Like, there would be such a stupid, crazy chain of command to have to go through, it could never happen. So I think that's the idea then. We would have to create a corporate entity and set up at least 50 shareholders.
Well, the kind of thing would be like a condominium association, which is where I live. Mm-hmm. The association owns the land. What I own is my apartment from the walls in. That's it. So I can sell my apartment anytime I want to somebody else, but all they get is what's from the walls in. I have a deck. I don't own the deck. That's the association. I can't technically do anything to the deck without their approval. So that's the kind of thing I believe that you can set up. A legal entity, almost like a small town, You make it like a condominium association, make it like a small town. Citizens, you have to have citizenship in the town to vote, and that can kind of be the model.
Mm-hmm. Also, something I was looking into, and it seems like the easiest structures to put down might be the tiny homes.
Mm-hmm.
Something very much like it. So I've noticed that the standard for rural cabins I looked into, the thing has to have a maximum footprint of 400 square feet. If it's below that, it's a cabin, and it's got the lowest possible restrictions. You don't even have to have running water or a toilet in the place, and you can have, you can go and stay there all you like without getting hassled by building inspector type people who are doing a job to prevent people from dying through their own lack of actual construction ability. So it's always torn, because I totally believe in the reason we have every building code that we have. Just like most laws, I just don't think they should apply to me. Don't I get an out for I agree that the law should exist, therefore should I not have to follow it? Doesn't that make sense? Does it only make sense to me?
Well, I can tell you one thing you're stuck with, certainly in the United States, is federal law trumps everything. I don't care what we do on our own.
Yeah.
Federal law is always going to trump anything.
Absolutely.
But, I mean, if we're building, let's say 20 miles outside of Davis, what do you got to worry about? Oh, somebody decides to put a throughway through our land, we got a problem. But as long as it's, we have that community land separate from a town, we can still get to the town, we can still work in the town, we can sell products in the town, but it's separate. We really shouldn't have to worry too much about state, federal, and local law, except to have Pamela be our lawyer. We've got to have a lawyer. I'm sorry. We've got to have a lawyer.
Yes, we may need several of them, in fact.
In fact, to tell you
By the time this thing's over, it may be called Lawyer Island.
To tell you the truth, I really think we build this the way we want it, and I want to create actual document somehow. I want to create a separate website, put the document there, have the website mirror and all this other stuff, but we create what we want. And then when you guys figure out how to get the money, first thing we got to do is we got to get a lawyer, and the lawyer is going to sit down and say, okay, you guys, you can do this, you can't do this, blah, blah, blah. But I say we start by creating what we want.
Yeah.
The money's figured out. I just have to finish my law degree, work for a year, and earn it.
Well, Pamela, if it's in the United States, we will pay for your law degree. We will pay you to go to college or wherever you have to go to get a law degree in the United States. We will put up your little office so that you can operate. Now, if you want to go into Davis or someplace and you want to protest, and hey, okay, as long as it's not on Science Island.
But no, I'm doing my law degree now, and to be a lawyer in the United States, I just have to. No, I don't have to pay for it though. I'm in Australia.
Oh well,
yeah.
We got to go to Australia.
Yeah, and to be a barrister in the US, I'm pretty sure I just have to be a barrister here, and then I have to pass the bar exam there. And that's all. And then I can work there too. So I don't need you to sponsor me. It's all good.
I like the idea of the refrigerated train cars being, or shipping containers, excuse me, being reconfigured. I've seen some really nice versions of that. But yeah, it starts with the land. It starts with the land, and then being able to do, and it's tougher. An area like the one I sent with the 160 acres in Tehama County is kind of unique because it is raw land. It's rural. It's rural land in a already rural county, which is important because they're not they don't have quite the same building codes as, say, a Yolo County, which is ag land that's already pretty populated, which pretty much has the strictest possible building codes around here. But it's not just the building codes. One of the things I ran into when I was looking at this 2 decades ago, there was a mountaintop ridgeline, I guess, overlooking Lake Berryessa, overlooking the Central Valley. You could see Napa Valley in the other direction. And it was going for pretty cheap, same sort of thing, maybe $80,000 for 100 acres between here and San Francisco. And I talked to the realtor guy about it, and he says, yeah, the only problem with it is build there, you have to build a road. And the road has to be 16 feet wide and a certain depth and a certain type. And if you want it built within a year, it's going to be about $250,000 to build this 5 miles of road. I was like, well, why? I mean, I've lived at the end of dirt roads before. Like, how is this? He's like, yeah, well, there used to be a waiver in Yolo County where you could, I guess this might have even been Solano County, but where you could say, okay, I understand I'm building at the end of a dirt road. Fire engine may not be able to make it down there, so if my house burns, it's on me. Sign the waiver. And then somebody who signed the waiver sued and won that the fire engine didn't make it to put out the fire in their house. So there's no such thing as the waiver now. So now you have to build this fire engine turnaroundable 16-foot road any place you want to put a property, even if you were trying to build, like, you know, little tiny town up there. You still got to...
Okay. But if you use shipping containers, they don't count as structures. And if you die and your family want to take your stuff away, then they can just come and pick your shipping container up.
Right. Just bring in the crane. Right.
Yeah.
So there are going to be...
Let me inject one question here.
Uh-huh.
If you don't have if you got a dirt road, how are you going to get the crane in there? The road is the single most important structure you start with.
No.
You got to get all that stuff into the island.
Quadcopters. Giant quadcopters that we will have built on Science Island.
We have road trains here in Australia that go on, you know, these dirt roads and that, and then they carry shipping containers. You don't need bitumen roads.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
Can't you hear me?
No, but it's somewhere.
Yeah.
It's somewhere.
Hear you, but I find it hard to believe. I don't know. Okay, that you could
Road train.
a crane on a dirt road.
We do here.
Well, of course. I mean, they have to build it somewhere, right?
Okay.
That's why they build like bridge to nowhere. You had to start with a bunch of cranes out in the middle of the ocean. I've seen cranes out in the middle of the ocean when they're building the bridges here. Put cranes anywhere. So, but yeah. So there's the thing. So we don't. So is that the device then? Is it an LLC? Is an LLC the solution? And then does it have to have shareholders, or is it just is it possible to create an LLC without a CEO, but with just a very large board of directors?
Yes. You don't need a CEO.
And then I guess is there still a personal ownership of the LLC if all the LLC is this board of directors that are controlling it?
Okay. Let me go another important point that came up when I was looking into the existing corporate communities. Is decision making. So we've got ownership, which gets into decision making.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, the initial investors. I'm already stuck. The initial investors. We got to get past that. The money comes in. It goes into an account. Okay, we got an account. It's a corporate style account. That corporate account is owned by everybody, but there's a small group of people that would have to be who can write the checks. A finance committee. So I think we can get by the ownership if we decide what that means, if we can decide on what I can do with my share in the corporation or what I can't do.
Mm-hmm.
I got 3 models here, and this is a Scottish cooperative. It's not a non-profit, but it runs businesses that are non-profit. And this is the Fine-Horn Association, created in 1999 to bring together diverse organizations and people associated. Now they got a 50-mile radius. So this is a small town. The association has an elected voluntary council, but all control of all aspects of the association's affairs ultimately lies with the membership through various democratic processes. The association employs 2 listening conveners whose job it is to take the pulse of the community, welcoming new members, support organizations and businesses, empowered grassroots members to take new initiatives and facilitate communication across the country. What it comes across the community. So what it comes down to is you have this association. Now what they operate by is consensus. They're not going to do something unless they can get everybody in the community to buy into it. Now they say this takes longer, but once that happens, things go more quickly. But when it comes to the individual endeavors, the individual businesses, that's committees. That's all separate committee. Again, the model is a small town.
Yeah, right. I love that. Yeah, it's you can have a water committee who's only looking at how we're using the water resources. Should we spend time collecting more water? Should we be using as much as we are for farming, or are we overusing it in our domestic? Do we need to ramp up production, or do we have a way of improving efficiency there? And you would have a farming community who's like, yeah, we're a committee that's like, yeah, if we had this much more water, we could produce this much more crop, and we could spend this much less on outside food, right? So yeah, I like the committee idea for every subject, especially if we do really get 1 or 2 decent experts in each field. You could have somebody who really understands our electrical grid better than I would, who would be on the power committee or what have you. So yeah, I think that sort of small town committee idea is the solid one. I think that is a good one.
Should there be any restrictions on housing? Now, with this Scottish community, most of the houses they have, it's an eco-village. So they have more than 1 person living in it, but it looks like you can have 1 home if you want. The non-profit organizations like that Twin Oaks, it's strictly community. It's like that monastery model. So you don't have everybody, individuals having homes. Privacy. Dale wants his privacy. I don't care about privacy. Where do you stand? Do you need to have your own bathroom, your own bedroom, your own kitchen, etc.? Should we go for initially the community style thing, or we just go with everybody having their own home?
Yeah, I like both. To put it blunt. So there's the longhouse idea, sort of a thing where all the housing is all together and the restrooms are shared and the kitchen area is shared. And I think I would be absolutely fine there. I would probably get kicked out within 2 or 3 months and have to go and build my own thing so that I could make as big a mess as I do in my kitchen, and could not notice the condition I left the bathroom in when I left it, and continue to. So for the community's good, I would probably need to have my own space, right? but I know this about me, so it's okay. Yeah, it just depends on the scale that it's getting built at the outset. I mean, I would like my own little self-contained world I could go and disappear into in a house, and with the restroom and the small kitchenette and the that sort of thing. Like, I don't need much of that, but yeah, I wouldn't restrict anybody who had the ability or the means or the desire to build their own house, their own home. Like, that wouldn't, deter me from what Science Island is all about in any way, shape, or form. When I picture it, I do tend to picture it almost as that, like almost like one ideal would be like if you could take a large concrete brick and mortar, what do you call it, like project building, and slap it in the middle of open space, right? It'd be fine, right? It's who your neighbors are, not what your neighborhood looks like. I guess that's my point. I guess it doesn't really matter to me, whether somebody's gone and built a 5-bedroom mansion up on the hill on one side, and the rest of us are in a line of shipping containers on the other. It's still the right group of people, right?
Well, I don't know. I think it would be resources. I agree. I like what Pamela said and what you've talked about. If people could have a mobile home, a tiny home that's really on wheels, the shipping container where you can just pick up your container, so you own that structure. You go, it's yours, and have other people, like you say, the condominium apartment style thing, the longhouse style thing, if they want to. The issue would be resources like electrical power. Everyone should have the same, should be able to use the same amount of electricity. It shouldn't be a case of where I can build my nice bigger home and I'm going to start using more electricity than everybody else. I think that would be one restriction, something like that. So the resources that you use.
But somebody could be Texas. Somebody could be Texas and say, I don't care for your limitations, so I'm going to build my own grid. You can have your East Coast grid, your West Coast grid. I'm going to build the Texas grid, right? And I'm going to put a dozen solar panels just on my roof alone, and it'll power everything that I need. Like, I wouldn't, if somebody can build their own.
The words out of
Go
my
ahead,
mouth.
Pamela.
Because well, he took the words exactly right out of my mouth. I already own a 20-foot shipping container, so I would have solar panels on top of that, and that would run everything, and I don't really need anything from anyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're going to wind up with the rich folk and the poor folk. You're going to have them rich folk up on the hill
I don't
with
care.
their big mansion.
As long as
I don't know.
I'll have everything
Yeah,
that I need.
but Ed, we'll know them. We'll be able to go and party at their house.
We'll be working for them.
Yeah, be awesome.
Okay, Justin, here's the keys to the Lamborghini. Why don't you go park over
industry
there?
town. I'm not sure what the
Here's
industry
just
is.
$10 there, Justin. You go get yourself a nice ice cream.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you, I will.
Okay,
But
you know
I'm sure
what?
what other people
30
have.
miles an hour.
Okay, we got an issue. We got an issue if I can remember it that I can put on our first ballot somewhere. If I can I'm going to create a
I
ballot
don't care what
somewhere.
other people have. Why would I care as long as I have what I need?
Because we're getting to the idea of a community with limited space, limited resources.
Right.
Limited resources.
Well,
don't have to have limited resources if you've got the money and you want to build, like you say, 14 solar panels yourself and they're yours. I have to think about that a little bit more. It goes against the grain, but you've got a good point. You've got a good point.
So here's the thing too. Like, for some aspects of it, if we're talking about, okay, we figured out what it takes, how many panels it takes to properly power our shipping container. We know about how much water it takes. We know a group sanitation thing we can do. If we create a 4-stall bathroom, we'll be able to accommodate 10 people, you know, or 10 shipping containers in somewhat close proximity. Maybe it's a big half circle or something of shipping containers, and that can be one group of people, right? And we know what the cost is, and we know what the amount of water we'll have to collect. So communally, you could sort of create together, pitching in for the solar panels, pitching in for the I'm sort of picturing the water collection as being, because rooftops on those separate small rooftops would be pretty tough. So it'd be sort of a separate, would look like a large basketball court with some small edges to funnel water into cisterns to collect rainwater, kind of a thing. So you'd work out a way of combining resources to pull together to get this little portion of the community off-grid but connected to each other. Now, if you had somebody else who's like, here's what I want to do, I've got this idea, but it's going to be somewhere not as close to the rest of them. I'm actually going to build a long Earthship. And the Earthship is a self-contained thing. So it collects its water on the roof. It collects its own electricity off of its solar panels right next to it. It's got its own sanitation. Like, it's self-contained. The Earthship doesn't need to be connected to other Earthships in any way, shape, or form. So there could be other different models that would be available. The tiny homes come with their own sanitation, right? They have a restroom involved with them. They've got a little fireplace for heat. They've got, I think the solar panels might be integrated onto them as well. So some of the designs for housing will require they be standalone. Some of them will sort of require teamwork, and I think there'll be a good combination of those. You know, the real teamwork stuff won't necessarily be in just in sharing the resources, but in trade, you know, and people bringing their skill sets to one another. You know, this is the one when I still like it a lot is the idea of all the garages up and down this street and every street in America that all have a lawnmower. They all have the same standardized tools. They all have the same metric tools. They all have the power drills. There's more power drills in a square mile of me right now than are being used at anyone. Right? Like if you had one and everybody borrowed it when they needed it, that would be plenty for like a square mile. But there's probably 500 of these things or more, like out there. Like it's just ridiculous the multiple duplication of resources that people go through when they're not a community. So like a community tool house is just one idea, but that's where the real sharing starts to come in. I think a community kitchen is something I've always liked the idea of. You could call it a restaurant if you wanted to, but it is, you know, it is a place where the things that we're growing and the things that we're producing could go into, and everybody shares it and eats it there. Of course, you can go and eat in your own place. You got your kitchenette or your full kitchen with, you know, convection oven and a hood and a range and a thing and whatever. Like, fine. You know, you could do that too if that's what you're interested in. I think it would come down to what people really want to do, and I think if there was a community kitchen, there was the restaurant or the place that people went to, and it was also the general store and the whatever else, and it was like a congregation place where we got together. I think that would be successful. If it turns out nobody shows up there, nobody's ever there, everybody orders all their produce and everything online, or their whatever, right? All their rations and resources get ordered online. Nobody goes to the general store. Nobody shows up there for the lunchtime or the dinner time. Then we're not doing that, right? Then that's how it would get sort of decided pretty quickly.
Pamela, do you have some comments or ideas or thoughts at this point? No? Okay.
I've just been saying everything I would say. Yeah, I don't know why everyone has to have each. Oh, there's a lawnmower here that I use about once a fortnight to mow the lawn. Well, someone else could use it. No, it's not mine to hand, and I'm not loaning it out to anyone. But you know, what's happening the other 13 days in the fortnight?
Yeah.
It's just sitting there waiting to be used. It's ridiculous. Yeah.
So the
So we have
restriction.
community-owned things.
So the restriction would simply be we start with the land, really. We have the land. We know that the land has to be parceled up for different things. We know we have an idea. We should have an idea of how much of that parcel is going to be housing. So we say, okay, here's the space. Here's the space for each person. You can choose to live together in a condominium association style thing, or you can build your own house on this space. But what you do on your space is your business.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the community has an electric power system, an electric grid that everybody uses. Now, you want to have your 50-inch plasma TV or something else, and you want to put on extra panels to produce your own electricity that you're paying for yourself, I guess that's okay too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense. Yeah. And I do sort of just picture it like it would just make more sense if it was smaller and communal. Like, I do kind of picture, like, I like the idea of the tiny houses being on wheels, too. Because then it's like, the time we could migrate. You're like, they're like, yeah, you know, this side of the hill isn't really that great this time of year. Well, let's go down there. They got the creek is running again. Let's move the houses down by the seasonal creek for a while for the summer. We'll move it back up in by fall when it starts to get a little chilly and the bugs come out down there by the squalid water of the swamp that forms of the creek. Right? Like I like the idea it could be like gypsy camps and keep moving around the property.
Well, if you have the sheep herder has to move around. You have to move some of you if you're into livestock or whatever. You got to move from the summer pastures to the winter pastures and that sort of stuff.
Yeah. That would be pretty cool, actually, if the houses got to keep moving around. But I do like I do like the idea too of like a bunch of, you know, like a long line of maybe southern facing shipping containers that have been modded out for this, you know, in a row. I think it would be aesthetically just awesome looking for one.
You got to have your map, map that shows you the land and everything, so you can figure out what is the best place to put things in.
Yeah. Right, and too, like, regardless of how close the houses are, if we're not building any fences, it's wide open spaces. You know, it's still I mean, it is still your wide open space. I mean, think about it's always weirded me out having partially grown up in Northern California foothills. Where everybody owned a couple of acres of their land, but they didn't go and fence their couple acres in. It's just you kind of know beyond that tree is so-and-so's property, beyond that big rock over on the other side is somebody else's property. So, you know, don't go cutting down trees over there. Don't mess with anything over there. And there weren't any fences, and it was just open. Well, it was forested open areas, but still. It makes a big difference. Then you get into a city where there's fences everywhere, where people are sectioning off square footage of lawn from one another. You know, if you tore down all of the back fences, which the neighbors across the street did, by the way. Neighbors across the street, it's a communal community. They've bought all the houses on either side of this block that are backing up against each other. They tore down the fences. So if you go behind the houses there, it's like a park. There's garden areas, there's playground, there's, you know, a stage that's set up, but it's all open all the way down, you know, 10 houses down, five houses down on each side down the block. Really incredible thing I think they accomplished there. And slowly over time buying one more house here, one more house there, one more house here, and it's, you know, and they do have community meal nights at some of the residences where everybody can come over and add some food and some cooking to it and do that sort of thing. You know, and they've done a communal living kind of a thing. But when you're sharing space and resources like that, yeah, it allows like everybody who lives over there has an amazing backyard that they can enjoy. You know.
If I want to build a fence, should I be able to build a fence?
Yes, Ed, you can build a fence.
Oh, not me. I'm talking Dale. Dale wants to go up into the cave and be the town prophet or something. He wants to be as far away from people as possible. So.
Yeah, he can build it. He can build a compound if he really feels it. Sorry. Well, I think it would be mandatory if you had any kind of dog or cat type creature. You would need to have a fenced area.
But it's just, not every child needs a swing set in their backyard. We just have one awesome swing set and get all the kids together.
Yeah.
Yeah. And instead of everyone having a small little swimming pool, we can have one giant swimming pool.
Yeah.
If you want a private hot tub, that's up to you.
Right, but I mean, and think about it too. Like, what's part of the expense of a hot tub is maintenance. Part of the expense of a pool is maintenance. It's all this upkeep and maintenance for things that you don't really use personally that often, and that's why they become, sort of extravagant expenses. Whereas, and there are, I mean, look, what we're talking about really is out there. It is a condominium situation, but it's creating that condominium type situation with a bunch of people you either know or are like-minded with you, as opposed to just a group of strangers where like you would have to lock up your tools because one of your neighbors would borrow them and not return them again ever, right? Like this is.
And they just like grab you when you're on your way out, and they want to talk to you about something that really doesn't matter, and you have to be polite because you have to live with those people. Oh my God, yeah, I've done that. I won't do that again.
Yeah. All right. So I've got my handy dandy rechargeable lantern here. I'm gonna go real quick because the sound hasn't gone away out there. And it's not the tree. I'm gonna go take a closer lit look at it with my rechargeable lantern. I'll be right back.
Okay.
And I just have to, my baby is asleep on my boob, so I just have to try and get her off and put my boob away. So I'm here.
Yeah. So if you should we have a pure democracy? If something comes up and we have to when somebody decides on a rule, or we need to decide where we're going to send money, should it be simple majority rule? Should it be 75% rule, or do we have to get everybody to agree?
I thought we talked ages ago, and we were going to say everyone has a go for 1 year at being like the prime minister or president or whatever.
Residency requirement.
But yeah, we can all vote. Just trying to disentangle myself. We'll be there in a minute.
One of the things you... Oops. I know one of the things you were talking about on Facebook. Now you're in a hurry. Let's build this science island because you live with a bunch of sheep or something. Sheep-like people.
I don't want to live with sheep. Hang on. Just trying to get her off to sleep, and she's woken back up.
That's okay. Just unless he's been eaten by a crocodile or something, he should be coming back, or attacked by a bunch of coyotes. He should be coming back shortly. You don't have to talk.
What happened? What happened to Dale? What happened to Dale?
Dale had to go. Spend time with his kids. I wonder, should it be one vote per each adult? What should be the voting age? That was a big deal in the United States. When do you become an adult so that you can vote on community matters? It's 18 in most. It used to be 21, and then when you could draft people for the Army at 18, they said, well, if you're going to draft somebody, you got to give them the right to vote. So it's 18 now.
But I think even younger than that can, I wouldn't say they're adults, but I think even from the age of 13.
13?
People, yeah, why not? If they're part of the community and making a contribution, and why shouldn't they have the right to vote?
I guess you have to define adult, really. And there in many societies, a 13-year-old is an adult. That's true.
I'm not even
Hello, Yanni.
I'm not saying you're an adult.
Hey, Yanni.
Hello, Yanni. If they're a contributing member of the community, does age matter?
What are we talking about now?
Voting age.
Oh.
Voting.
How do we judge when someone is a contributing member of the community?
Gotcha.
I'm just saying, like, with the voting age, are we going to make it like 18 or 21? I mean, it could be 13. It could be 12. I know 12-year-olds who accomplish more than 40-year-olds. I know 40-year-olds who accomplish very little. I don't like putting things by age.
So you have a test. You have to pass a test. You pass the test, you can vote.
Maybe, yeah. Why not?
Okay.
And if a 50-year-old doesn't pass the test, well, they don't get to vote. I mean, isn't that one of the problems with? Well, not with you, but here in Australia, we have compulsory voting. So we have completely uninformed people who do not care about politics, and they have to vote. So they just go in, so they don't get a fine, and they put 1, 2, 3, 4, and they have no idea what they're doing, and that affects the rest of us. So yeah, why not pass it? It has nothing to do with age. If you pass a test, you get to vote.
Well, that's interesting. I have really bright kids, but they're also slightly
Right, then they should have the right to vote if they're that bright.
Well, it's not intelligence.
They're also a little bit
It can't be just
diabolical.
intelligence, because it's also decision making. You can be very intelligent and make bad decisions.
Right. So part of this, I kind of like this idea of and not necessarily the test. I think that's sketchy in its ramifications for society. But I do kind of like the idea of a community voting age that's below 18, in that you can have a 16-year-old, whatever it is, say it's a 16-year-old gets to start voting on issues of the community. They're taking part in a democratic process, so by the time they reach the age of 18, they already take their part in the democratic process seriously. And I think that in education-wise, as a civic lesson, is tremendous. It could be tremendously useful. I think that's a great idea. In a way, teaching people the importance of democratic involvement. And maybe it's set at 16, maybe it's set younger. I don't know, but I think that's a good idea. I like that. There's something about that that's really appealing.
I just would rather not set an age. If they're a contributing member of the community, then they get a vote.
Well, so like if it's going on right now, Chelsea gets a vote. So we put the tabs out there for the choices, and she grabs the one and starts chewing on it.
No, she's not contributing anything.
Okay. Well, of course she is. She's so cute.
She's sitting there looking cute. Yeah. No, but if she's collecting firewood, then she gets a vote.
Yeah, I can. There's some sensibility in that. Yeah, and especially having 3 kids who I think I could control their vote to outcome to some degree. I think I'm totally for that.
So the people with the most children that they control their votes.
How about this? This is something I like the idea of. I like the idea that we all have 3/5 of a vote. Every contributing member gets 3/5 of a vote.
And why?
Actually, I think it should be each family. I mean, I'm the bachelor. You guys got kids, right? You can outvote me on everything.
Exactly.
So I say it's one family, one vote.
Well, here's the yeah. So you could call it, and then again, it depends on where we're talking about. Like, if we're talking about bringing this idea to the community and saying this is the plan that we've come up with on our committee, then it's all the committee members, and I suppose there could be a 12-year-old member of the farming committee who's got a decision they can make, and they get to place their vote because we've included them in the committee on farming or on water resources, and they're involved in it because they go out and work in the garden or help build the water collection facility. If you're talking about the community at large, I think it would come down to you could have a popular vote of whoever's there, and then you could also have a let's not call it electoral, but shareholder vote. Because if you're talking about creating the structure of Science Island as an LLC that puts it into a land trust, and the LLC is made up of shareholders, the shareholders' decision making should be that, you know, however many shareholders actually are, do like a Supreme Court vote. So you could have one vote that says, here's what we want to do, and this is just by popular vote, and you could do it by contributing members of some sort, regardless of what they do or what age they are, excuse me. And then you can have the you know, that pushes it up to the next vote, which is the council of shareholders, who are whoever the original members are who envision this thing. And then, you know, so you could create again, the important aspect of democracy is that it be a multi-headed bureaucratic beast of a machinery, so that very little extravagant quick action can actually take place.
I don't know. Isn't it really to get the community working together on something? Isn't it really getting a community to buy into a particular thing, whatever the heck it happens to be? Mm-hmm. You can delegate. You can delegate finances to the finance committee, and the people on the finance committee, you know, the majority gets to vote, but I don't know.
But ultimately,
I think you've got to come up with a standard.
Say if you're talking about a community of 50 people.
You're not feeling well, Patrick?
No, I'm fine. I have people around me, and it's really noisy here, so I'm on mute.
Yeah, I think you got to have, well, there should be a standard. I agree that maybe age alone shouldn't be the standard. For instance, if I develop Alzheimer's, you know, I'm 71, I probably shouldn't vote. So I don't know what kind of test. How the heck do you figure out who should be a voting member of the community? You got to have a standard. Age makes it simple.
Yeah.
That just simply makes it easy. That's what you want an age.
If we were going to do that, I would say it would be like 16 or something like that. I would say that would be appropriate.
Can you even come up with a good standard?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think if you're adding standards, so I'm thinking like, okay, if we were pre-planning the American experiment of democracy, having Pamela's you know, written test, you know, you're getting into like poll tax, right? You're getting into, we're going to discriminate against you based on some level of education. which on one hand I'm for in concept. On the other hand, in practice, it's been used to disenfranchise people from the democratic process. So I think I'd be against that one just for historical reasons.
Now, Ed said a test, and I said, oh, Ed, that'll be all right. No, I think more just if you're contributing whatever you can to the community. And it motivates, for example, it motivates teenagers that can be generally hard to motivate to do anything into being contributing members of the community. So if you're 13 and you have a job in the community, then why shouldn't you have a right to vote in that community? And then they're investing in a community that they might actually want to stay in when they are adults.
Well, so here's okay. So then, if we're voting people into the committees, right? And a 10-year-old runs to be part of the water resource committee, then they get enough votes to get in there, then they're in there, right? Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
No age restriction.
What's wrong with if a 10-year-old is the best? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I can definitely see that with the committee or whatever, the people who are running a particular thing, running a business, the power, whatever it is. Yes, they can decide who they want as their members, and then they can establish their own particular rules. The framework would be the budget. The budget would be established at a general meeting of some sort. Mm-hmm. But at that general meeting, once again, I'm back to how do you decide who's going to vote? Once again, is it an adult? But then who's an adult? It's not going to be. If it's not going to be by age, then you've got to have some. Is it every working person? Okay, I'm not working. I've developed a particular condition that prevents me from working. I no longer can vote.
Yeah, I don't think that sounds right. That doesn't make any sense.
No, I wouldn't exclude someone because they're ill or got a condition. If they've already contributed to the community, I think then they would have a lifetime vote. I'm just saying I don't think people should be restricted by age. I think age for anything, education, anything like that, I think age is a rubbish measurement. It has no meaning towards abilities.
So yeah, so I kind of like the idea of one family, one vote, to the extent that that family lives in the same domicile. It gets trickier when you're talking about a generation later of people living on Science Island, and all of my many offspring have Science Island dwellings, and we all still, then we have to fight over what our vote's going to be. What if we have an even split? Then we've got to have a whole democratic process within the household. That gets annoying.
That's where these communities have fallen apart in the past. Mm. Patrick, you have something to say?
So there was the Black Bear community, which they did some. So I think they did the community trust thing, is what they ended up doing. But regardless of who was living there, and a lot of the original founding members don't currently live there, and other people are living there in this communal working farm in Northern California. But whenever something comes down to a question of should we, shouldn't we, is this allowed, is there a decision to be made about who's living in this house at this time now because there's a dispute over who wants to live there, whatever the thing would be, it's sort of that original member council that votes on it and decides. And so I think the sort of Supreme Court of decision making, as it were, would be the original shareholders of the LLC that was used to capture the funds to create the land trust. I think that's what the default. That would be like the ultimate voting. Well, not ultimate voting, but that would be, I don't know if you would be the Senate or the Supreme Court, but however you would want to look at it, that would be where the final decisions would be made.
No. Yeah, let's get back to funding. Patrick, unless you want to say something about this whole voting business. Okay, let's get back to funding, which is one of the things you had wanted to focus on last week. Anybody got any ideas about how to fund this Science Island? I don't know, Pamela. You're making hand signals. I don't know if that means you have an idea.
Pamela's got the
Or
idea.
you're the one, you won the lotto and you're going to
Already said.
give
No,
us the money?
Pamela's going to be a lawyer. She's going to do a class action lawsuit against Australia. She's going to take that money and ship it over to Science Island. Done.
Yeah, I only have to work for a year as a barrister in Australia, and then I'll have plenty of money to buy the land, and then we start.
Right. So the other kind of ideas would be, you know, I mean, the tough part is just get the land in the first place. I can see the possibility of doing individual little Kickstarter projects and stuff where you're laying out a project of some water collection thing that you want to build, and the whole project is going to cost like $5,000 in cement, and you know, and you've described why this is a totally awesome thing. You're going to be collecting rainwater and living off the grid, and this is why we want to do this project. You can do a Kickstarter, Patreon type of thing, connected to a show about how to do it yourself. You know, so you could use media type stuff to be like turn the building of Science Island into a show, and what you're funding or kickstarting or Patreoning is individual projects within there that you get people out there in the rest of the world who would love to be part or do something like this contribute a little bit to make individual projects happen. How to kickstart the initial land grab, I think, is the toughest thing of all, because you're pitching the idea that there will be some land somewhere of some expanse of size where some sort of structures may be built at some point in the future. It's a real vague thing that you would be, you know, fundraising on. So I don't know how that part gets done. That's the trickiest thing. Once I think, you know, I really do think you could Patreon, Kickstart, social media fundraise a small scale project to do like a solar panel array or a, you know, again, the water collection thing seems pretty clear, or to get the funds to buy greenhouses or to start this project. Like specific projects, I can see ways of fundraising a lot easier than the general kickstart to the whole project.
Yeah. No, you're right. That's the tough part. One thing, I don't know how much it will help. That's why I want to have a website. So if investors say, okay, what's this thing you're talking about? They can look at the website. You can point them to the website. That becomes the central location. But that in itself, obviously, is not going to be enough.
No. But it's a necessary component to like the more information.
I mean, you have to give people something. They're not going to do it because they want to be nice to you. They got to get something for their money. Now, like you say,
not necessarily. I disagree. I think people can give money just to be contributing to an idea they believe in. You know.
All right. Yes, that's true.
I've done that. I've seen people run projects off of that. That's not unheard of. But I think it has to be a specific type of a project. Like if the girls in space weren't trying to put a this gravity simulator with a plant in it onto a CubeSat into a satellite into space, they wouldn't have raised the funds if they said we'd just like to further our science education and work on some projects later on. You know, I don't think that would have generated the interest in people going, yeah, that's a great idea. That's awesome that they're doing this. Let's, kick into it. So.
Yeah, the original people who moved to Science Island, half of them, or certainly a large percentage of them, could be working off the island. That's a way of bringing money into the island to fund some things.
Right.
And the other communities I've looked at, like Findhorn, etc., what they do is, again, the businesses, some of them that's where they have that tax profit thing. So then somebody, they have tax deductible dollars. They're contributing to that, and they're getting a benefit in that they're not going to be paying any income tax on that particular money. So that's something.
Yeah.
But we still got to figure out that's it. What are people going to get for the money they're putting in? Maybe it's an idea like you say. We're gonna, build a better Earth ship or something.
Right. So my whole point of making first step, the figuring out whether it's a land trust or if it's an LLC or whatever that thing is the mechanism not to generate outside funds even, but if we could find 50 people who could put in $2,000 a piece, you could buy all of those, pretty much all of those lands, at least that I've thrown up there on the Science Island website or the Facebook page. Right?
Back up. How many? How much is that land going to cost?
The 160 acres is under 100,000, I believe.
Okay, it's $100,000. And how many people are going to? That's 2,000. That's 50 people.
It's 50 people.
Okay.
And where is that?
Wait, what? What?
We're using this as an example.
Right, as an example. So when we're talking about raising the funds, I mean, really we're talking about 50 people kicking in like $2,000, and the land could exist. If it's different land than that one, it might be more people or more money per person. 50 people, $3,000 for a nicer spot of land that might be smaller but closer to stuff. Whatever it is, that's the initial purchase. I don't think you can crowdsource fund the initial land purchase itself. I don't see how, because you don't know where it is, because you don't have.
Okay. So how many people do we have?
I think right at 5. There are 4 or 5. I think there's 5, 6 of us if you include Dale.
Was it a year ago? A year ago we did this, and I think we came up with 10 people willing to kick in.
And I've got some other people who would kick in once it got rolling, but
That's they said they would.
Yeah.
Now reaching out of their pocket,
again,
giving
depending
you the
on
cash,
where it is and what the But at $2,000, it's also kind of hard not to. If it, once it got rolling, it's kind of hard not to jump in once you actually see the thing starting to develop.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so maybe it's. But what if it is? What if it is 10 people? What if it is? What if we could get to 20 people? Say we got to 20 people. That same piece of land is $4,000 a person. Right? It's within a very realistic realm of being able to do. Right? Especially
there are parts of the country where you could get a lot of land pretty cheaply. So the question is, if you want to move in a particular place, it might cost you money. But if you're saying our bucket is going to be X and it's $100,000, you could probably find places like the two big communities, Twin Oaks and the farm. They're talking 2,000 acres of land in the year around. Of course, that was 2,000. They only paid like $100 an acre. So you can probably find the land for $100,000 and get maybe 100 acres or something. 1,000 acres maybe. Well, but you've got to decide on it. It would be, what do we need to have on that land? The kind of thing you pointed to, and that's did you say $160,000 or $100,000?
I think the last one was 160 acres, but $100,000. But that's pretty rural.
Okay, so that's 50 people kicking in $2,000.
Yeah.
That doable?
Or 25 people kicking in $4,000, or I mean it's a smaller property, or it's 50 acres. and it's still 100,000 maybe. But you never know. Like, but that's the sort of thing you need. This is why the land trust vehicle to collect the funds is the first step, because I don't think we can get, or at least the place where it would go if we got enough people to hand raise for it, or just to start sending it at once we've got a decent amount of hand raisers to make it actually happen. Mm-hmm. But I really think the first step of finding land, buying land, and I like your idea of Oregon. Oregon is beautiful. Oregon is gorgeous. Oregon doesn't have quite the economy. This is one of the things I really like about California. And I know Ulysses thinks it doesn't rain here. We're the breadbasket for America. We produce most of the produce in this really wet state. The question is about, in a time of what looks like a drought, can we still afford to make almonds, which are a gallon of water per almond, right? Is that the ability to earn an income here statewide is pretty high. You can make a really decent living in the state of California. You've got every major industry here. The tech industry is here. The Hollywood industry is here. We've got auto industry here. We've got farming is huge here. We've got a little bit of everything. If you work, you can find good jobs in California. And there's plenty of great universities, and there's plenty of affluent people with liberal tendencies who might come and visit a science island on occasion and want to rent out a shipping container that's living off the grid and see what that's like. So there's a lot of options that we can use to our advantage being in a California. That if the more rural we get now, even that 160 acres of Tehama County is pretty rural in terms of California. In terms of California, that's almost as rural as you can get. It does back up to the Mendocino National Forest, which is kind of a neat thing. So you have this very large, one of the largest national parks right there, national forest. So there is a massive preserved nature area that won't impede upon it that won't be impeded upon possibly ever, right? Which is kind of nice. You can be sure that you won't have your science island surrounded by a major metropolis at that location. You'll have this gorgeous stretch of protected land already there. Right? So, but there's different ways of doing it. But the first part is I think we'll have a much better way to go of attracting donators to see projects completed, which means they have to be recorded, which means we have to be educating about the process, videotaping the process as
I can do that.
Yeah, right. And I think that's where the interest of something like this comes, is going to be whether it's preppers who are watching it, whether it's people who are eco-minded who are watching it, whether it's people who are just curious about the construction that we're using, like all of this, whether it's a social dynamic, right? Whether somebody's tuning in to this, because it would be a show, basically, I guess. It would turn into, an updated web show or whatever it is. But that's how you would update those would be the updates for like a Kickstarter, Patreon kind of a thing, as you worked on different projects.
Million YouTube hits is about 50K.
Really?
So I'm told.
Okay. So we do the whole thing topless. Oh, good. We got Pamela's attention again. Okay. So it could be the social dynamic people are tuning in to see. I don't even care. Like, we'll film it all, right? But I think you'd have the possibility of doing that once you had a location, once you had that sort of thing. Also, something that would be kind of fun to do in a California setting, it could be anywhere, but I think California is easier, is that we could get celebs escaping Los Angeles for a weekend to go and do this. So we could be a destination that's on somebody else's show. Could be, you know, whatever. I don't know. So lots of possibilities. I think though that there's I can't picture a way of raising money for land and not having a good pitch for it. I think you have a good pitch for the elements that are there once we have a land.
Well, first you've got to get people who say they will move into that land. This is the island I want to move to. That's number one. Then number two is, okay, how much money can we raise?
Yeah.
How much money do we need to raise?
One of my favorite quotes by Ronald Reagan. Actually, it is my favorite quote of Ronald Reagan's. My only quote that I like, perhaps, of Ronald Reagan's. It was a 4th of July speech. And he said, "Where would this country be without this great land of ours?" It's kind of a poignant question because I was a child at the time and I really was like, oh yeah, it's a good thing we had a place to put the country because I don't know where we would put it. India maybe? I don't know. Like where would our country be without the land of ours? So this is the thing. Where would Science Island be without land? And it won't be on land if it doesn't have land.
So until we decide on a location, can't go any further, it seems to me.
No.
We can start on a location.
Right.
I don't care if it's just your idea, or maybe we put it on the Facebook page or something and 3 people vote for it. Yeah. We get something. We make a decision somehow that this is our starting piece of property subject to change.
Yeah.
And then we can take it and then we can put it onto this website and say, here it is. Here's the picture. We can modify it. We can decide to change it. There's the picture. Now you got to get how many people are willing to move there, and then you can get into that next question. Okay, it costs X. Here's how many people we need to contribute to it.
Mm-hmm.
Coming up with something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. And everybody doesn't have to move there either. Like everybody doesn't have. You can come vacation there. You can come recreate there. You can visit there.
Okay.
And plan on living there maybe sometime in the distant future. You know. Plus, everybody who's involved in starting this isn't necessarily everybody who's going to live there. So, you know, if in the sort of field of dreams scenario, if you build it, it will come. You may find that creating this as, in the beginning, a sort of working youth hostel, where you're attracting people from internationally to come and stay. We set up, you know, 20 of these shipping containers. We outfitted them so they're livable. Half of them have electricity. There's outdoor plumbing, whatever it is, right? And you're inviting people who are traveling from Germany or England and Ireland, where have you, who can come and stay here for $5 a night. When you're here, there's a few chores that come along with the working hostel, which is, you know, we're going to dig out this trench or we're going to build up this farming thing. You know, I got to see there's this place called the Fiddlehead Farm, or at least it was in existence in Canada, and it was a working youth hostel like I'm describing now, and it was homesteaded by a couple of New Yorkers back in, like, I think the 50s or something. But literally there's no roads to this place. You had to get to the Fiddlehead Farm, we had to hitch a ride on a boat across, I think it was Powell Lake or something, to get up to the entrance of the place. And the entrance is a dock, and then it's like a mile and a half through tall trees to get to this place. And it's a big cabin and some smaller cabins. It's been built up over the years by people who were going and just sort of visiting there for weeks at a time. Some people stayed. There was a couple of German carpenter kids who stayed stayed through the winter, and I was meeting them in the spring. And they had done, because they had different cabins and stuff that were out there that people would stay in, and for their input, for what they did to contribute for while they were staying there, was carpentry. And they had redone these cabins, like they'd had these amazing carved doors on the thing, right? and they'd redone all the wood inlays and the wood floors of the cabins. And these places, the cabins were gorgeous, what they'd done to it. And they just did this to ply a trade, there to help out this working farm, this youth hostel kind of a thing, and didn't have to pay rent for the time that they were there, and they got to go and do nature hikes and go travel down to Vancouver and check that out for a while. And so there's ways that we can populate it and have people there contributing and creating the sort of community without everybody moving there and making their livelihood on the island. In fact, I really like the idea of the almost a bread and breakfast of like tiny houses. Like, come check it out. You can come and rent a tiny house for the weekend. I bet there's plenty of people who would love that idea. They've seen them, they've read about them. Let's go try one out. Let's go see what that's like. As something to do.
We can be on Airbnb website.
Yeah.
We can do Airbnb. Look that up. We can register on there. So AIRBNB, BNB, as in bed and breakfast. Yeah.
But do we have to? People have to be flying at the time? That sounds like a bed and breakfast in the sky.
No, that's not what it is.
Air is inclined.
Okay. I gotta go mow the yard, so I'll be. If you guys are still going, I'll be back, and if you're not, then I won't be.
All right. Good night, Pamela.
Night, Pamela.
Okay. Let's start something.
Okay.
I mean,
So-
we can talk. Let's start, even if it's a little itty bitty tiny start. Let's
Do we have 50
start
people?
with land? Okay.
Do we have 50 people? How many people do we have? Let's do a head count. I'm now. Oh, we're diminishing. It's okay, Ed. It's you, me, and Yanni. Okay, Patrick's back too.
No, what I suggest is we have 2 online communities. One on Facebook, one on Google Plus. Anybody can post in those 2 places a piece of land. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I don't care, even if we only have 1 piece of land, that's our starting point. Okay? But we gotta have a starting point, or we just wind up, just talking, which is fun. Hey, I'm not opposed to talking about all this stuff. But let's attempt a start, even if it is only, a possible piece of land. So over the next week, if we can, anybody who wants to, and I'll post messages wherever. Anybody who wants to, you post a piece of land, and people can vote whether or not they want that land. We might, if we get 3 or 4, we can pick one, and now we have a start. And then we can think about posting, finding out what we can about that little piece of land, and we can eventually post it on this website that we're trying to create.
There's a problem with that.
Okay.
These pieces of land, they're for sale. If we spend all our time on one piece of land and then it gets sold, what was the point?
What's the point? I mean, what else can we do?
You have to have more of a broad concept. And then once you have the concepts down, then you go for the piece of land.
Okay. You want to try and create the plan first.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll go
And
on.
it can't be like a solid plan. Like, you can't base it off of a single piece of land. You have to base it off of, like, if this happens, then we can do this. If that happens, then we can do that, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. I'm perfectly willing to start with the plan. We've talked about a bunch of stuff. I don't know if I can collate this, if you will. I'll put up questions, and the only place I can see online is, as I say, those 2 communities. Here, and the 2 communities on the Facebook community, and the Google Plus community. And then just put a ballot initiative of some sort up there for each step in that plan.
Do we even have, how big are these, like how many members are in these communities already?
10 people.
Okay.
I mean, we could make. I mean, we have like 100 people in the ScienceIsland.org Facebook and Google Plus communities, maybe 200 total. But do we really want to open up the plan to people who have no intention of ever living there and letting them vote? If we're trying to make this in any way, shape, or form the plan, or
the more eyes you have, the better. It's like it's not an elite group, is it?
it's a group of people that have committed themselves to saying, yes, I'll move here.
Yeah, but you only get people that say they'll commit to move there if you have more people to look at it. You want to have as many people looking at it as possible.
Okay, I'll take a vote. I'm willing to take a vote right now. There's 3 of us. There's Jani. Okay. Do we want to make that community closed just to certain people who say they are willing to move there, or do we want to make that community completely open? All right? I say it should be closed to only these people who are willing to commit to living there. What do you say, Patrick?
Open.
Don't make it open?
Yep.
Okay. Justin.
Well, just because I think it's going to be harder to get to 50 people if the group is closed.
Exactly. No point.
And again, I don't think you have to move there. I think it could be, you know.
There are a lot of people who just like the idea of it and are willing to give money to it. They don't have to show up.
Okay,
I mean, I probably wouldn't. Honestly, if we got like the Northern California 160 acres tomorrow, I wouldn't be moving there tomorrow. You know, like
right. You'd show up a few times when you had some time and you'd start getting stuff ready, but you wouldn't move there straight away.
I wouldn't be moving there full time. I'd now have a thing to be funneling resources into, to like, okay, what do I actually need? What's the actual cost of one of those damn shipping containers? What does it take to get one from where I'm going to buy it out to where this location is? Okay, I'll need this amount of money, and I'll be able to do it. Okay, by the end of summer, I'll be able to get the shipping, or the shipping container can actually be there, right? But I wouldn't actually be on that land right now.
And you'll get some like crazy-ish people that say they want to help out and whatnot, but when it comes down to it, when you actually move out there, they're not going to show up.
We did this exact thing. We did this exact thing, I think, about a year ago.
Yeah.
And it went nowhere.
Yeah. Well, whose fault is that?
All right. Well, we'll see. Okay. Anybody you want? I'll make both of those. I don't know if I can make one of them. I'll have to create a new site or something, because I think one I made private and it has to stay private. Or we can just eliminate both of those that I created and go back to ScienceIsland.org. The ones we still have, get rid of them both.
I say
and go back to posting there.
Stick with the infrastructure you already have.
Okay.
The audience that you've already built up. Why try and rebuild it?
It didn't work.
Right.
Okay,
No,
fine.
no, that's not true. It did work. You built an audience. You built an audience with science stories and the initial thing of the concept. I mean, if people started following the website because of the initial concept and just stuck for the science stories, then that's great. Then you just want to bring back the initial concept and say, hey, we've been making progress on this. I mean, some of you have been watching the Google Hangouts that we've been the live Google Hangouts that we've been doing, and so we're actually coming to a point where we want to make this happen. And so here's what's going down.
Okay. Justin or Patrick, do one of you guys want to write that initial post?
I think it should be Justin. It's his idea.
Okay.
All right. There you go, Justin. You can go on to this is on Facebook. and Google Plus. We have the, I think it's scienceisland.org. No, what is it called? Just Science Island, I think.
Yeah.
It's just Science Island. Okay, you're a member of it already. Okay, you can post something to give us this starting point.
And can't we make a post to the actual Science Island website?
Oh, when we create the website, yes.
Well, no. Aren't we using the original ScienceIsland.org website?
No, I wasn't planning to. I could.
Well, my question for you is, why are we not using the original ScienceIsland.org?
Because I couldn't get enough people to get onto it and interact on that particular website. Let's see.
Facebook is just going to be easier.
Okay, let me screen share. I don't, maybe we can.
I don't like the walled gardens.
I am open to all suggestions.
There's lots of people that would probably be interested in this idea, but they hate Facebook and will not go on Facebook.
Okay, that's why we've got the Google Plus community for people who don't want to go on Facebook.
Right. I'm thinking more along the lines of like a Google group or a Yahoo group or something like this, where it's not specifically a walled garden. I mean, it is. You still have to sign up to be able to post or whatnot, but you can do guest posts. You don't have to be a Facebook person to do it. You don't want to do like a private forum because unless you actually have a lot of traction, because that's just another thing people have to sign up for. You want to do something that people are already on, but pick a web presence that people will actually use, not specifically Facebook. I have a problem with people always hosting all of their stuff on Facebook. I'm not on Facebook, so I'm not going to do anything with that.
What's wrong with you, Patrick?
We get more interaction on Facebook, and we get almost no interaction on Google Plus.
There's more citizens on Facebook than there are citizens of China. Join the hive mind.
While that's true, here in hackerspace world, no one's on Facebook.
Might be a reason.
And almost all of these people would be interested in doing Science Island.
Well, they have. I mean, there is a group on Google Plus. Get them to interact there.
Yeah, no, hackers don't do social networking. They do their own websites.
Yep.
They interact in the comments.
I don't know. We've got
Common
two groups.
ground.
Where else can we go?
So it sounds like we've got 10 people. We all need to come up with 10 Gs. And then there'll be 10 votes.
10 Gs will take me about 2 years to save up for, and I'd like to move there if I have to put down 10 Gs right away, because I won't have any place to stay.
Well, there's the solution then, right?
Right.
Need money to make money, but then if I make money, I'll need money to... This is why I wanted Science Zone in the first place.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I want a place where I don't have to pay rent. If I don't have to pay rent and I still have my current job, then that works. But I can't move to Science Island and still have my current job. It's not a remote job.
This is...
I have an example of what could work for us. But it's for game, but still.
I don't know how Halo 5 is going to help us build Science Island.
I think what he's saying is we need guns.
For idea.
We need guns.
Not a game, but still the site itself.
Oh, he wants to redesign the site so people would be more interested in it. I do think our site is kind of...
Oh yeah, absolutely. This started out to be we're talking about ScienceIsland.org. It started out to be primarily about Science Island, but nobody ever posted to it, and it was more interesting for me. I was doing all the posting, so I made it a science site, just like TWIS. But I'll go any place where we can get interaction. Now, one reason you talk about redesigning, that's exactly why I say, okay, we'll create a new website and design it any way we want it.
And we don't have to create a new website. You can keep the website you already got and just redesign the website you got.
Yeah, but nobody posts to it except me.
Well, that's because it turned into science news, and I wasn't all into that.
Well, and it's
Well,
also
let's see.
because there's
Okay.
the conversation has been taking place with, again, larger number of people than are participating in the active conversation on it. There's really this is what it is. It's those of us who are showing up here and talking about it. So it's a small group. It's a small group of people who
Okay,
are.
can you see this? Average per day, 26, 19, 22, 33, 25. Started posting some science stuff. Now it's up to 6. It's almost 3 times more than double what it was. I mean, with 26 people on average per day.
26 is better than 0. That's better than 10.
Well, 64 is
It's
twice
better
as
than
good as
3
that.
or 4 that we have in this chat room right now. So here's someone who would be interested in doing this, and he has no social networking whatsoever. My friend Scott.
I'll tell you what, if Scott or you want to build the website, hey, I'm all for it.
There we go.
Hi, Scott. You two guys want to build a
Wait a
website?
minute. Why am I not getting audio all of a sudden?
I don't know.
No. Shoot. I don't know.
I don't know where we are at this point.
Hold on, my speakers aren't working. I'm going to leave and come back. One moment.
Such an amazing ratio to me. How quickly, like, smaller land goes for higher and higher money, the closer it is to the city. It's just a phenomenal price increase.
Nope, didn't work.
Let me do a further. Yeah, there's not much.
Okay. Looking for either looking for a starting point, or we just forget it and go with the Hangouts. I'm okay with that. But we've got 2 open sites, one on Facebook, one on Google+. You or anybody wants to post a picture, as you have done, of what our science island is going to be. And then we can go through it and at least pick a site to start with. Just a starting point. Now later, Patrick or somebody wants to build a website that is going to be a lot more attractive. I think that's I think that's what we need. We're going to need a visually appealing website as a starting point to give places for somebody to look at. But maybe we won't be able to do that either. I don't know. Okay, how about those Raiders?
Sorry, I'm scanning through land to see if I can find something else that's a little bit more sensible. But that there's cheap Southern California land in absolute Mojave Desert for sale. That's always for sale. It's always cheap. But that's insanity to attempt to do anything there. The Tehama one is actually, that's a pretty wild location. I mean, it's Northern California, which does get a decent amount of rainfall. It's right next to a national forest. It's within, don't know how long those little squiggly dirt roads that lead to the property actually take. But I would guess it's probably 2 hours from actual civilization. Some small towns in the mix here and there and the downabouts. Actually, it looks like it might be the roads through the national park might actually take you quicker to North Bay civilization, but not completely removed from society and its location.
Hey, it works. All right.
But that's if we were working towards that goal right there, you know. 30. What is that? 30 people committing $3,000, right?
That's $90,000. I thought we only needed $50,000.
Huh?
How much money are we needing?
Well, if we're going by Ed's call of like pick the land, if we were going to go after a land. Okay, so this one's a little more. What is it? It's 160 acres for 110,000, I guess is what it is. Let's see. But I think there was some way of. Is that the same? This isn't the same property, is it? Yeah, this is it. Yeah, so it's 110. So that's close. So 30, 40, 35 people. Is that right? 5 times 3, 50. Yeah, that's getting there. 36, like 36, 37 people. So we wouldn't need the whole 50, but we would be at $3,000 a person, right? So this is the sort of math, right? Like how many people do we actually need to commit to this? So, we need somebody to take down a list.
A list
Ed?
A list. Okay, what kind of a list?
Of who would be on board?
Well, we had a list. Not sure how it was. It was 10 people willing to kick in. I think it was $20,000. But I'm not sure if everybody. Patrick, you are on the list.
$2,000. Where did you get this $20,000 figure?
2,000. Yeah, 2,000 was always the magic number I was using.
Okay. How many people are willing to kick in $2,000?
Yeah.
Okay. And I'll post that question on the Facebook group, the Google Plus group. I'll put that question in our YouTube Hangout when it shows up. I'll put that in the show notes. Mm-hmm. Anybody else can advertise it or post it anywhere else there.
How many people are watching our Google Hangouts?
Right
maybe
now,
50.
Oh.
25 to 50, it depends.
So here's what I'm thinking. Like, okay, so I can get all of the hosts of that show to do it. I can get a handful of others. I'd say I could probably gather up another 3. So we're talking like I can come with like 6. I
have, I think 3 or 4.
Okay.
So now we're at 10-ish.
Yeah.
Right there, right?
And then if you add Dale, Pamela, Yanni, Ed, that's like 14.
Right. So this number is growing just off the top of our head, right?
Alright.
And I'm sure each of those people could bring a few people into the fold.
Yeah, they probably all know one other person who would be down with the idea.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, that's great. If that can happen, let me screen
That's
share.
1/5 of all we needed for the original land that Justin wants.
Mm-hmm.
And so if everybody in that group
Here
found,
are our members right now.
everybody in that group found one other person, no, 5 other people, we can be golden.
These are the people I've added. Pamela, Yanni, Ulysses,
Oh yeah, yeah.
Amy Lynn, Brian Condren, Tony Steele.
Kyle, maybe.
So you took 2 of my 6. So I'd be adding myself if I'm not there. Am I not there?
I don't know.
I'm not
I
there.
thought you were. Yeah, there you are.
Oh, that's me. Okay.
Gallifrey University of Time Lords. You're there.
Yeah.
You didn't even know you were there. Come on, Ulysses.
So so with my other three who I could pull up there. We're
Okay,
talking.
let me see. Well, there's
Oh,
a
we might be
closed
able to have
group.
Chris Morrison.
Let's see. How does it?
That's another one.
Find the group who wants it. Only members can post.
Talk to him in a while.
Now, I want to see who can invite people. If everyone here can invite someone, in fact, as many people as you want, I just want to see if Justin and Pam, if you guys can actually add people to this group.
Right.
All right. So let me put it this way then. Even if I couldn't add anybody, I'd be in for 3 shares. Does that mean I get to vote more?
Yeah. I mean, it's
No, money does not buy votes.
So I'd be in for 3 shares of that I could gift to other people to get them to vote the way I want them as a Ponzi government. But yeah, I'd be willing to do
I don't
like
like
the
the whole family voting thing. That doesn't make any sense.
I'd say there's as many votes as there are $2,000s that go into this. That seems like if we can get 50 people to vote on an idea or concept, if we really needed to, then it would be pretty decent. But yeah, I think we could get to this number pretty quickly.
okay. Now these are
I
people.
thought this was a. Yeah. Wait, what was it?
Meritocracy.
A meritocracy?
It's a philosopher king state.
Okay.
Yeah.
With you at the helm.
What is this list again? Let's back up and talk about this list. Is the list only people who say they're willing to contribute $2,000?
Yes.
Okay. Gotta make a note of that.
Fair
That's all
minimum $2,000.
They don't have to move there.
Okay.
They don't have to live
So
there.
we're creating a list of everybody who says they're willing to contribute $2,000.
Yes.
Okay.
Now they may not want to live there full time, but who doesn't want a good bug out spot?
If it's a bug out spot they want, then it's got to be like in a really secluded mountain valley.
Yeah, exactly. That's what this is. So we, this is where you go when you hide from the law.
Well, then we already have 50 people right there. I'm sure there's enough people that would want to hide from the law.
It's just always tough because it's a plan ahead thing.
Now the
already
$2,000
running from the law, it's not
going
to work.
So we're back to starting.
Do we take Bitcoin? Do we take Dogecoin?
As soon as they're converted into dollars, yes.
Okay.
But once the island is formed, the island is going to run off of its own makety-up money. I think we call them dollies, after Dolly the clone sheep.
Oh yeah, wasn't Dolly on the Science Island coin?
Yeah. So this
It had
way,
an island on one side and Dolly on the other.
yeah.
Okay. So we're going to post this, each of us, anywhere we want. Any place you want to post it, you post it. And then you can come up with a list and...
I have about 1,500 followers on my Google Plus feed.
Okay, great. And Justin, you're going to give us the opening spiel.
5 engaged followers. Which is about right.
Are we gonna come up with something interesting to say in this post we post everywhere we can? Are you going to come up with the spiel, the sales pitch?
Yeah, I will come up with
Okay.
it. I don't have it right now,
That's okay.
but I will come up
Really,
with it.
Justin, you've been working on this for like 10 years.
I know. So, but I want to do it like it's like a Go West young man sort of poster somebody might have seen.
If anyone was to write
keyboard town in the early 1800s,
if anyone was to write a sales pitch for it, it'd be a car salesman.
right? Are you tired of living in an urban environment with working plumbing and reliable electricity.
Well, come out to an intermittent, renewable.
Got that pioneering spirit, but don't want to go to Mars?
No infrastructure to speak of.
Do you feel like people are watching you? Constantly. Right now, I mean. Maybe you could do with a nice retreat to Science Island. I gotta go look up some old Vault Tech. Some old Vault Tech brochures. But yeah, we could definitely make the bit. And again.
Okay.
Chances are that this thing will.
Oh, yeah, we forgot Brian from the UK.
He's on there. Condon's
He's
on
on
there.
the
Is he
list.
that list?
He's on the list? Okay.
He's on the list. Okay, well, okay, so you'll write up a sales pitch.
Mhm.
We can wait, and then whenever you put it together, you can send it on. You're on Google Plus, right, Justin? Yes, I know you're on Google
I don't
Plus.
ever use it for anything other than Hangouts, though. Honestly, I don't ever look at it. I'm
Well-
not in front of a computer very much.
Okay, what you can do then is you can come up with a spiel. You can direct message me on Facebook,
Okay.
and then I will copy and post it on Google Plus so that Patrick can look at it. And then we can publicize it and put it off, put it out there in any way, shape, or form we want.
Why don't you just put it on a Google Drive and have a link?
Okay. Anybody who wants to put that out anywhere, we'll get our original sales pitch message out there, and then we'll find out. And then we'll find out how many people are interested, and then, like on Google Plus, Patrick, you can give me the list of names. Yanni can do it. He wants to give me a list of names.
Yes, because there's nothing more than preppers like than people handing out lists of their identities.
I got nothing else. I'm making a list. You give me a list of names. I'm putting them on the list. What am I going to do? Put an invisible link? Here is the invisible people who say they're going to contribute money. Or you can, I'll tell you
all
what,
up there,
Patrick,
man. It's all up here.
Patrick, you can say, I know 5 people in a group. And
they
that's
sure know
just the way
5.
I'll put it.
It's a really
Patrick's
great
group.
pyramid scheme, actually. We could do a tiering system. Just for like 3 or 4 levels would be good. Maybe we should set up a tithing thing like the Mormons have, 10%. 10% off the top. We're good in like a year. Maybe.
Wait, what are you talking about? I got confused. What is this?
New.
We'll be thrilled if we can come up with a list at this point.
We're going for a multi-level marketing scheme here to get the monies.
And
So
Patrick, you said you were going to put together a video, a sales video. Did I hear that earlier?
I said I could do that once we have the thing up and running. I can document it.
Ah, okay,
I have the skills. I went to school for it.
okay. Great to know. That's good. That's good.
Possibly 2 dead bodies. That is
Whoa.
unconfirmed.
This is
That there is somebody
standoff and
right
shooting in
now,
Davis.
and, they are trying to secure the
Yeah.
scene. If you get any more
Shut up,
information,
son.
we'll let
Is
you
that
know.
what that noise is?
Sherry Nairo for
That's not it.
ICDavis.com.
So I gotta go drive around my town because there's like a shootout going on. And
I figured that would be the time to stay home.
no. This is my town. I've got to change costumes and go. No, this is kind of big. We don't have crime in this town. So when an event goes down, we all show up with axe handles and torches.
Just the handles, not the axe.
No. Nobody even, there's no trees. There's no reason to keep axe handles around. You know, it just adds weight and reduces, because you keep them in the trunk of your car, it reduces the gas mileage. So it's just the axe handle. That's sufficient to show.
Oh, is that why I've been getting so bad gas mileage? I have all these axe heads in my trunk now.
Yeah, you're doing it wrong. You just have the axe heads that's just weighing you down. I gotta go, but I will be.
Okay.
I will be back. So I'll create this sometime this week. I'll create the a couple of sales pitchy things to post out there, and I don't think you need to post who is how many people are. I mean, you should post the number of people as you update it. If we're at 13,
yeah, don't post a list of people.
But I wouldn't put the list of names on there.
Okay.
That's all. That's because that's a permission thing. But they should be messaging you or somehow sending to you their interest level on it so that you can record their name in the secret book of recorded names so that our number of people...
have them send you a PM.
Yeah. So that the number of people isn't being convoluted by all of us saying we'd want to do it in 4 different medias and all getting counted 3 times. So there should be a list of names of who's actually would be interested in doing it. And then reaching out to see if there's more people within our own community who would already be interested in doing it. Even if again they're going to vacation there or go camping there or whatever it is. I think the youth hostel thing. Once we get that Pamela Barrister money coming through to build the.
Wait, are we sending this message out privately to a bunch of people?
If you like, it's however you want.
I thought it was public.
Okay, yes, public. I was just confused for a second when you said private DMing. That's only to me, so I can make my list.
So yeah, to get added on the list of founders, who would be willing to contribute $2,000 to the cause of this and have yourself a little homesteady type place from the future, to message you that they want to be on the list. Right?
Okay.
Because that idea is then we have actual names and we can. So then the next time we post it, it could be instead of 12 people, we could say it's now 18 people on this list, right? So that's and that way we could build. Once we get around to that 50, and then we can, I don't know. I think the downfall will be agreeing on where.
Post it to the ScienceIsland.org site as well. Because even if you're just doing science news, why do you still have all the other old Science Island stuff still on the website? Might as well. It's part of the website.
Yeah.
Right. And then I think when we have sufficient number of people to say, yeah, within a month's time we could pull these resources into an LLC and go buy land, then the downfall will actually be non-agreement of where to put it.
Which is a better discussion than trying to decide where to do it and buy it and have it stolen from us.
Yes, totally agree. All right, guys. Good night.
All right. I'll see you guys
next week.
Bye.
Okay.